the source of where these chocolates would have come from.
Regarding the 6 children's death in Naledi, has the department been able to trace the exact source of contamination in the products consumed?
They met us with the police that are investigating it. So we're waiting for the outcome from the police. Remember that whenever this type of incidents happen, we always say suspected, because it's only after the samples and the tests are done, the toxicology tests are done as well on the children, that we're able to really get to the bottom of what could have been the source. Is it the food that they ate, or is it something else? Because not all the incidents are food poisoning. There are some incidents that at first appear like food poisoning, but when further tests are done, it appears to be chemical poisoning. And chemical poisoning in this case would be that you came into contact with maybe a substance that was laced with organophosphate, maybe a pesticide or an insecticide. So in that case, it would not necessarily be the food that you ate. It will be coming into contact with that other chemical that causes the harm. So we're still waiting for the outcome of that, of those results. Because the police took over the case in terms of further probing, given that we have the death and inquest in our hands.
There was over 70 grade 12 pupils that was hospitalized in the West Rand. So what enforcement actions or sanctions do you believe, as the health department here in Gauteng, should be taken against those retailers and spaza shops selling these expired or non-compliant food items that endanger public health?
Look, the National Health Act is clear. It provides for environmental health practitioners to be able to act. They can either close down some of those establishments, or they can then also issue fines. You would recall that we work closely with municipalities, because in terms of the foodstuffs, cosmetics and disinfectant act, they are duly authorized in terms of being able to issue fines and close down establishments. And hence, in the particular incident that involved the Naledi children, you would have seen that it's the city of Joburg that has probably been driving the communication, because it's within their area of competence to actually be able to act. And I think you would have seen that there's been a number of awareness drives. There's been a number of visits to many of these places, with some of them being closed where it's found that there's lack of compliance. So at the municipal level, we do have those municipal environmental health practitioners that are working for all the municipalities. But as the Department of Health, we work closely with them to support in terms of this awareness drives, to ensure that we continuously conscientizing communities.
Right.
But from the implementation of the law, in terms of closing down, is the competence that is sitting with the municipalities. And I think most of them now, we're seeing them taking action, closing some of...
Motale Madiba, that's where we got to leave it. That was the Gauteng Health Department spokesperson. That's where we got to leave it for today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa declares special official funeral in honor of Mboweni, and inquiry into Usindiso building fire to resume. President Cyril Ramaphosa has directed that the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations in the country from this morning until the evening of the funeral of former Finance Minister Tito Mboweni on Saturday. The President has also accorded Mboweni a special official funeral Category 2. Mboweni died on Saturday at the age of 65. In a statement, the President says he served the nation as an activist, economic policy innovator and champion of labour rights. The Khampempe Commission of Inquiry into the fire at the Usindiso building in the Johannesburg CBD is expected to resume in the city today. The commission was set up to investigate the deaths of 77 people in the fire at the hijacked building in August last year. In May this year, the inquiry found the city of Johannesburg and its entities were liable for the deaths. Communications and Digital Technologies Deputy Minister Mondli Gungubele has again emphasized the importance of the finalization of the SABC bill. The SABC appeared before Parliament's Portfolio Committee to present its 2023-2024 annual report and financial statements. The bill, which has been in the pipeline for nearly 16 years, seeks to change the SABC's funding model. The African Development Bank has announced funding of $5 billion or more than 17 trillion rand to help women and small businesses on the continent. The bank's Leila Mukhadem says the women will also get the necessary training support. And finally, the U.S. has written to Israel giving it 30 days in which to boost humanitarian aid access to Gaza or risk having some military assistance cut off. The letter, which the U.S. Secretary of State and Defense Secretary endorsed, amounts to the strongest known warning from Washington to its allies since the war began. Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has directed that the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations in the country from this morning until the evening of the funeral of former Finance Minister Tito Mboweni on Saturday. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start in Durban with a truck fire incident. It's on the N2 North at the Umgena Road off-ramp, so it's going to be further complications this morning as you come from the M7 Bluff exit through Spaghetti Junction into the work zone that was Westwood Mall, opposite Westwood Mall. So you queue there every morning, and then this truck fire incident further up at the Umgena off-ramp. So you're going to have two pressure points this morning. If you're heading up from the south to the north for flight connections to the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through what looks like being a very heavy and backed up M2 going northbound. Kransport Pass, just north of Middelburg, truck crash recovery underway. That's the N11. Expect a bit of a wait to get through, passing the dam there. And Cape Town, you've got Baden-Powell open this morning. Yesterday it was all closed down because of thick sand. This morning there are patches of sand at Coastal Park between Strandfontein and Muizenberg, but the road is open. And already quite a bit of pressure building on the M7 coming out of Mitchell's Plain, Jake Scoville Drive, queuing quite heavily towards the R300. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we have soccer action where Bafana were held to a 1-1 draw by the host Congo, which could potentially delay their qualification to the 2025 AFCON. And in cricket, the Proteas women secure their place in the T20 World Cup semi-finals and are set to face Australia. We'll bring you details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Wednesday, the 16th of October 2024 is upon us. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief, and it's just gone 6 minutes after 6. It's good to have you with us. We've got a jam-packed show lined up for you over the next 3 hours, quite a wide array of topics that we'll be touching on. Among them, something is clearly happening in the food handling value chain for foods and snacks consumed by pupils at schools in townships and in some informal settlements. Some townships and some informal settlements. Something is happening there that we need to get to the bottom of to really grapple with and fully understand. The Gauteng Education Department says learners at another school have been hospitalized due to suspected food poisoning. It's an all too familiar story. How many times have we reported on these? And in fact, sadly, in some instances, these turning out to be fatal. So we need to get to the bottom of this. What's happening in the food handling value chain for some of these foods and snacks that are sold in schools, in townships, and in informal settlements? Last week, you'll remember over 70 pupils from schools in the West Rand in Gauteng were also hospitalized for suspected food poisoning. And I seem to recall that about a month ago or so, the Department of Health in Gauteng flagged the issue and talked about stepping up food inspections and ensuring that in the value chain, no toxins are introduced. So the whole concept of food coming into contact with poisons, rat poison in particular, or elements thereof that are used in trying to do pest control in some of these spaza shops in the townships. I wonder how far that initiative has gone. Is it yielding any result? Is it starting to turn the tide in as far as the introduction of toxins to some of these foods in the townships is concerned? So the Department of Education in Gauteng will talk to me at about 20 to 7 this morning following the latest incident of food poisoning affecting pupils in a township in Gauteng. That conversation coming up within this hour at about 20 to 7. Then in the second hour at about 10 past 7 thereabout, I'll be in conversation with the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kisweta. The interesting thing about the two-pot system, retirement system that came into effect at the beginning of September is that, we jokingly say it's making the pots to be done, a South Africanism that says basically there's lots of activities that are happening. People are accessing it and hopefully accessing it for helpful reasons and not merely to spend and splurge to only land themselves in trouble later on. What the SARS, the South African Revenue Service, is gleaning out of that is also quite interesting. They are talking about over 1 million applications for tax directives related to withdrawals from the two-pot retirement system. As you'll know, when you are applying to access a portion of your retirement savings in line with this new law, you have to apply to SARS to issue what is known as a tax directive, which tells the fund manager, the retirement fund manager, how much to take in the form of tax and basically pay over to SARS. So they're saying that they've received over 1 million applications for tax directives, and they're able, of course, being on at the coalface of it all. SARS is able to say how much has been paid out in lump sum to various applicants to date, and I can tell you they're talking about 21.4 billion rand. That will have implications for how much SARS is able to collect by way of revenue. So I'll be having that conversation with Edward Kisweta, the Commissioner, after 7 a.m. Of course, we have all of your regulars lined up here on the Morning Brief, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic update every 15 minutes or so, Zai Khan is watching all things sport throughout the morning, Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered throughout the morning, and of course just before 8 a.m. at about 20 to 8 thereabouts, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update. But importantly, you will be part of the conversation throughout, and you can do that by giving us a call on the number 086 000 2032 or your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane.
Should I test your Norwegian and say Guvelt?
Guvelt. Hvordan går det med deg?
Oh wow, it's like that? That's what happened 2 years. Do you remember that life? I'm getting ahead of myself in the conversation, but do you remember that life? Do you remember the 2 years spent in Norway?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of my life, even that culture is a huge part of my life. I'm fluent in the language. I spent 13 years in Norway, so it's a huge part of my life.
Trumpeter, composer and band leader Ndabentle Zulu.
Koketso Sachane on SAFM. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
All right, for that, let's turn to Ann Musa. Ann, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a bit cloudy and overcast. In Siswati, we would say, "Libafati badvube nyama." Have you heard that expression?
The woman what?
It's a weird expression. It basically, when it's like this outside, when it's overcast, we say the weather resembles women who are boycotting meat, who don't want to eat meat. So that's a literal translation.
Okay. I want to ask, but I will not ask.
Even I wouldn't be able to give you the answers. What do you have on the diary this morning?
Well, today the national flag will be flown at half-mast at all flag stations from this morning, and that until the evening of former Minister of Finance Tito Mbowene's funeral on Saturday. President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a special official funeral category 2 in honor of Mbowene. And police are on the hunt for 4 key suspects. That's in the Thulasizwe massacre. And the SAPS has launched a manhunt for 4 suspects they believe may be linked to the Thulasizwe mass murders, and members of the public have been urged to come forward with any information about the whereabouts of the men who are considered to be dangerous and possibly armed. The Gampepe inquiry into the Usindiso building fire that caused the deaths of 77 people in the Johannesburg CBD is expected to resume today, and in May this year the inquiry found the city of Johannesburg and its entities were liable for the deaths. In courts, former Speaker of the National Assembly Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula will appear in court to have her trial date set, that is possibly, and she's accused of fraud and corruption while she was still the Defence Minister. In Cape Town, the former City of Cape Town's MMC for Human Settlements, Malusi Boy, and 8 co-accused are expected to appear in the Cape Town Magistrates Court today. Initially, there were 9 co-accused, but one person was gunned down outside his house in Mitchell's Plain, and the accused are charged, face charges including money laundering, racketeering, fraud, and the Prevention of Organised Crime Act, and they are currently out on bail. Other stories that we're looking at, the accused murderers of union leaders who were against the municipalities investing public funds that's into the defunct VBS will continue in the High Court in Thohoyandou, and the sitting taking place at the Waterval Magistrates Court will see the trial resume as a trial within a trial regarding the admissibility of a confession statement that was made by one of the accused Radzumo siblings. And the accused are said to have killed SAMU leaders Ronald Mane and Timson Masetsu. And the unionists were against the municipalities investing funds into the VBS. So some of the stories that we have our eyes on this morning.
All right, thank you for that, Anne. The expression again, libafati batvubinyam. You can find
my
out. My
family will be so disappointed in me, you know.
Why is that?
Because I'm actually supposed to understand what it means, but story for another day.
All right, all good. We'll talk to you a bit later on. That's Ann Musa. She'll keep you updated on the news throughout the morning, every half hour actually. Look out for Ann's updates here on the Morning Brief.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's give you a sense then of what your weather is looking like as you start the day on this Wednesday. Just 2 warnings. One is an impact-based warning, yellow level 2. It says that wind and waves leading to difficulty in navigation at sea, as well as small vessels and personal watercrafts at risk of taking on water and capsizing in locality are expected between Hout Bay and Plettenberg Bay in the morning. There's also a fire danger warning. It says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the eastern parts of the Northern Cape. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is partly cloudy with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 22. Johannesburg partly cloudy 10 to 19. Mbombela cloudy 13 to 22. Polokwane cloudy becoming fine by the afternoon 10 to 22. Mahikeng is partly cloudy, windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 14 to 25. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy, windy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 27. Kimberley, partly cloudy, windy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 30. Cape Town will be fine. The wind will be moderate to fresh northwesterly. It's a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 23 in Cape Town. Gqeberha is fine. The wind is fresh to strong easterly with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 24. East London is fine with the wind being fresh to strong northeasterly and a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 24. Durban is partly cloudy. The wind will be moderate to fresh easterly to northeasterly, reaching strong from the south by the afternoon with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 22. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy, becoming fine from the afternoon with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 24.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So let's turn our eyes to the United States now for that. All attention is, of course, focused on the high-stakes battle between the U.S. Vice President, Kamala Harris, who's also the Democratic nominee for president, and also the former president and Republican nominee, Donald Trump, as the November 5th election draws nearer. Both candidates have had to navigate a difficult political climate and contend with weather events like Hurricane Milton. Poll data shows a tight race, with Trump said to be holding a narrow 1% lead over Harris in key swing states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina. It's an important one. We've got to keep our eyes on it, and to help us do that, let's bring in Sherwin Bryce Peace, who is the SABC News correspondent in the United States. Good morning to you, Sherwin. Thank you for staying up late to have this conversation with me. In U.S. electoral politics, there's the concept of the October surprise, which is a news event that occurs very late in the election cycle that has the potential to influence the outcome of the election. Is it possible to talk about and pinpoint what the October surprise of this election cycle has been, or should we wait until October is over?
You know, Thulasizwe, good morning to you and good morning to the Morning Brief listeners. I would argue that this October surprise came in May, maybe with the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Maybe it came when Joe Biden had that dreadful debate performance. Maybe it came when he then 3 weeks later decided that he was no longer running, and opening the doorway for Kamala Harris to step into a historic moment that she doesn't really talk much about. There have been so many surprises already. Let's add October to the list and see where we go, because there's 3 weeks left in this election cycle that I would argue has been going on since Donald Trump announced his candidacy back in November of 2022. So we've been in this perpetual cycle for the past 2 years. So if you want to throw in an October surprise, I'm all ready.
So let's talk about the swing states. I see that Pennsylvania has been receiving quite a lot of attention. This as early voting has actually gotten underway in another state in Georgia, also seen as a swing state. How much attention are the candidates paying to these swing states, and why is that?
Yeah, so let's explain this to our listeners, right? There are two very big concepts that you must understand. Candidates will can win the popular vote, but winning the popular vote, as Democrats have found out in so many elections, does not necessarily mean that you win the White House. Ask Al Gore that, ask Hillary Clinton that. It's all about the Electoral College. You have blue states that lean blue. You have red states that lean Republican. Texas, for example, is Republican, sort of guaranteed Republican, right? And then you have a place like New York or California that guaranteed is going to go for the Democratic Party. And so you can tally those Electoral College votes. There are 538 Electoral College votes. You need to win a majority of states to get to 270. It comes down to those purple states, the swing states, your Wisconsins, you mentioned Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Florida used to be a swing state back in the day, not so much anymore, Arizona. And so you see the emphasis, Thulasizwe, from both campaigns, both the Republican Donald Trump's campaign, the Democratic Kamala Harris campaign, is focused on winning those states, because it's those states that will determine which of the two candidates gets to 270, which means you win the majority of the Electoral College and therefore the White House. So Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 by several million votes. So did Al Gore. So did Joe Biden. But it came down to who wins the Electoral College. That's why the focus is on all those swing states.
And in particular in this election, Shawan, are we saying that the race in those swing states is that tight? Because overall, it's been reported that the race is too close to call. But is it particularly so in the swing states?
Yeah, we did some reporting on this for SABC earlier this week, and I actually said in the piece to Thulasizwe that Harris leads here and Trump leads there. So Harris could be up by 1 point within the margin of error in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I'm looking at some polls in Michigan. Donald Trump is up in places like North Carolina, up in Georgia, up in Arizona, and so it's all within the margin of error. And so what the polling is telling us is that these are going to be very, very closely fought and contested races. And if we look at what precedent teaches us, Joe Biden won those states by, several 10,000s of votes. The margins are very, very narrow. If you look back at Hillary Clinton in 2016, something similar. So if the polls are telling us it's going to be very tight, it's going to come down to a few thousand votes here and there in several counties. And of course, it comes in the broader context of the one candidate in this election talking about not accepting the outcome. We'll see if, how it goes. And there is precedent based on what we saw in 2020. He did not accept the outcome of his loss against Joe Biden in 2020. And it resulted in an insurrection that led to the storming of the United States Capitol when the Congress was seeking to certify that election. And so let's not remember, where we were 4 years ago. There are some serious concerns about possible violence if the margins, as the polls indicate, could be very narrow here.
So are we getting a sense of a refining of the message by both campaigns? My sense of it, let me give you my sense of it and you can tell me what you think. I heard the words being used by Kamala Harris referring to Trump as, quote, unhinged, unstable, and seeking unlimited power. At the same time, Trump has been focusing on the economy and basically he was talking in that Bloomberg interview about his favorite word in the dictionary being tariffs. I thought his favorite word in the dictionary was wall.
You know, the day before he had a campaign event. It was supposed to be a town hall where you take questions from constituents, and it turned, 2 people fainted. He decided not to continue with the town hall, and he danced to music for 30 minutes. It depends on which event you're talking about. Today he had that discussion with the Bloomberg economist, and he talked a lot about his vision for America's economy, but not with the granular detail that one would expect in the context in which it was happening with business leaders and so forth. It's all baked in already, Thulasizwe. Yes, people say they favor him on the economy. Maybe they favor Kamala Harris on reproductive rights or in terms of saving America's democracy. But the support has been baked in for a while now. We know the entities we're dealing with here. People know Donald Trump very well. They're getting still maybe to a certain extent to know Kamala Harris. But remember, she's a former attorney general from California. She's a former United States senator. She's been the vice president for the last 3.5 years. So people have a better idea of who she is. It's pretty much baked in. You've got the two tribes. America's very divided. The two sides are very suspicious of each other. If one person's got a better economic message than the other, but you hate the other one, you're still going to go with the person you like. So, elections have become very emotional affairs. Yes, there's an element of policy, but generally people like who they like.
And part of a short conversation you and I had on social media had to do with the amount of lies and untruths that are being told in this process. And I see that in that debate, even Hurricane Milton and the response thereto was subject to quite a fair amount of fact-checking the claims made by the candidates on it.
Yeah, I mean, we heard Kellyanne Conway. You might remember her. She was a counselor to President Trump during his first term. She was actually his campaign manager, the first woman to win a presidential campaign as a campaign manager. And she said something soon into Donald Trump's first term in the White House. So we're talking around 2016, 2017, right? She made the statement and she used the words alternative facts. I think they were talking about him having a bigger crowd size than Barack Obama. So, we have a long history of the misinformation. We saw it now. It's become very political. The response from the federal government, all the governors, Republican governors in Georgia, a Republican governor in Florida, a Democratic governor in North Carolina, these were the most affected states, said the federal government has been in lockstep with them in terms of the response. And Donald Trump comes out and says, they can't get him on the phone. And so you have these two very divergent messages. And it's a complicated area to traverse as journalists because there is so much misinformation and that gets amplified on social media. The clickbait is there. You say what you want, it gets magnified. And we've seen the strategy from Trump is that he doesn't back down from the lie. And the best example of that is his election loss in 2020.
And not to mention the claims by Marjorie Taylor Greene about climate change and global
controlling the weather. We have power to control the weather. My goodness, who knew?
And it might possibly be good for us, climate change, according to her. Lastly, Sherwin, let's touch on, it then comes down to bringing out your constituents and ensuring that they vote. Why is Kamala Harris focusing on black men voters in light of what Obama said during the campaign that was seen as him chastising black men?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's this narrative that you've got to turn out your base, right? You've got to turn on your base, and then you've got to win those middle-of-the-road independent voters. You can maybe steal some from the Republican Party, and the Republican Party can steal some from the Democrats. What we are seeing, there was a New York Times Siena poll that came out a short time ago, a few days ago, and what it pointed to is that Kamala Harris is attracting less black support than Joe Biden did in 2020 and compared to what Hillary Clinton did in 2016. It shows Biden receiving about 90% of the black vote in 1990, and the polling indicates that Kamala Harris is attracting about 78%, so about 15% support in terms of the black vote going to Donald Trump in terms of this poll. And so the concern is that based on the small margins we are talking about in these swing states, if Donald Trump is able to peel off a few thousand black men in some of those swing states, could that have a deciding impact on the outcome of the election? That certainly is the speculation. Black men have similar concerns to white men in certain instances. They're concerned about immigration. They're concerned about what's in their pocket. The economy is very important to anybody, no matter what what race you are. The other question we don't know the answer to is the extent to which Kamala Harris is pulling away white women from Donald Trump based on decisions that the Supreme Court handed down in terms of ending the federal right to abortion. Right. That was because Donald Trump appointed certain judges to the High Court. To what extent is her message on reproductive rights resonating with women, and how many is she appealing away from the Republican Party? That is going to be what will decide this election in a few weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time, Thulasizwe.
I look forward to covering it with you. Thank you for that, Sharon Bryce-Peace, the SABC News correspondent in the United States, giving us a sense of what the election race is looking like. Merely, 21 days or 20 days thereabouts before Election Day. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 2 suspected extortionists have been killed and another seriously wounded in a shootout with police on the N1 near Sanctuary City in Cape Town. Preparations are underway for the funeral of former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni in Limpopo on Saturday morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded Mboweni a special official funeral Category 2. And the Automobile Association says the anticipated fuel price hike will come at a time when most consumers and motorists are still struggling financially. The 5-month trend of fuel decreases is set to end next month. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on Durban's N2 North. We've been reporting not only the roadworks that are there on a daily basis up through Spaghetti Junction to Westwood Mall, but shortly thereafter a truck fire incident at the Umgeni off-ramp, and that is a real mess. That off-ramp pretty severely limited, so you're going to get a queue coming through Spaghetti Junction up into the works as you do every day, and then you stay in traffic right up to the Umgeni off-ramp. If you've got a flight to connect with and you don't fancy that, maybe a reroute up the M4 through Durban and up onto the Ruthfirst Highway, back onto the N2 North of Umgeni Road. You can come back on at Chris Hani. You can come back on at Gateway. You could just get up through Mshloti and all the way up that route into the airport. The N2 North is extremely heavy and probably will be for some time. Another crash staying in KZN, not so far away from last week's horrific crash scene. This is the N2 southbound, driving from Richards Bay and Pangani to Durban, just approaching the Mandini exit. It is again a fatal crash, so there will be some disruption there for a little bit this morning. Cape Town Baden-Powell is open. A little bit of traffic just slow between Mitchell's Plain and Strandfontein, but the stand is nowhere near the problem that we saw yesterday, and already queuing on Marine Drive. I think it's a problem with that double set of traffic lights and the synchronization at Woodbridge Island. Marine Drive, we saw this since last Friday. It queues differently and queues reasonably heavily in towards that Woodbridge Island area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So it would seem, good morning, Zai. It would seem that we're not really rushing to the stadium, to the side, the corner flag and dancing like,
the last time.
Like the last time, at least not after the rumble in the Congo.
Yeah, the rumble in the Congo. Unfortunately, we're going to bring it down to the one thing where we tried to pitch our way to an early AFCON ticket, but that artificial turf had other plans.
Yeah.
Will that count?
We'll blame it on let's blame it on the pitch. Yeah.
There we go. I think Coach Hugo Bruges might be feeling a little cross after that artificial pitch tripping up Bafana's AFCON dreams. They were played to a 1-1 draw by host Congo, and it all happened at the Alfonso Masemba Dibat Stadium in Brazzaville last night. South Africa are second in Group K behind Uganda, and they enjoy a 4-point lead over third place Congo. A win in either of their remaining 2 qualifiers in November will be enough to guarantee a ticket to the AFCON. The other match saw Zambia. They made sure to get all 3 points. They won 1-0 against Chad in their AFCON qualifier encounter at the Amadou Ahidjo Stadium. The result sees Tupelo just go 2 points behind Group G leaders Ivory Coast, who also have the advantage with a game in hand. In the meantime, DR Congo continuing their perfect run in Group H with a 2-0 win over Tanzania. All happened at the Benjamin Mkapa National Stadium, helping them seal their place at AFCON in Morocco. Elsewhere, Cristiano Ronaldo failed to shine as Scotland avoided another late Portugal defeat to earn their first point in yesterday's 0-0 draw in the Nations League action. In the meantime, Isaac Price's hat-trick powered Northern Ireland to a 5-0 win over Bulgaria that sent them to the top of their Nations League group. Now, the last time Ireland won 5-0 at home, George Best scored a hat-trick against Cyprus, and that was in April 1971. With Belarus and Luxembourg drawing 1-1 in Hungary, Northern Ireland sit top of League C Group 3 by 1 point before facing these two teams, and that will be in the final games next month. And cricket, the West Indies knocked England out of the Women's T20 World Cup and booked a semi-final place in the process, winning the final game in Group B by 6 wickets. England were put into bat. They lost their captain Heather Knight to injury before Nat Silverbrun's unbeaten knock of 57 helped them set a target of 142 for victory. Affie Fletcher took 3 wickets for 21. Windies captain Hayley Matthews then shared a 102-run first wicket partnership with Kiana Joseph to put her side into a commanding position.
Yeah, I feel really good, to get in a couple of overs for the team. I really enjoyed that six. I see you've been hitting sixes. They call you the six boss, I think. Yes, they do. This is our first semi-finals in, I think 2 World Cups. How does it feel? To be honest, it feels really good. It feels similar to 2016 World Cup. It's actually going the same way as 2016 World Cup. So, all we got to do is stick to it, be confident, and keep going forward strong. So if it feels the same as 2016, you know what that means? That means you're going to get a second star.
Well, a first victory over England in 14 matches took the Windies through to a semi-final with New Zealand, while the South African team, the women's team, also advancing from Group B. They will take on the 6-time champions Australia. We'll bring you more sport at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's bring in Daoling Lechela. Good morning to you, Daoling. So in the age of AI and high digital connectivity, microchips and semiconductors are the coin of the realm, really, but not always seeing the shine and the shimmer of that coin as ASML is finding out.
That's right, Tulas. Now, in a surprise move, ASML released its earnings earlier than expected. The company that supplies the likes of NVIDIA and Intel with equipment to make chips that power AI and computers said that it accidentally released its financial results early due to a technical glitch on its website. Now, those numbers, especially its outlook, shocked markets. The Dutch company expects net sales for next year to come in between 30 billion euros and 35 billion euros at the lower half of the range it had previously provided. Net bookings in the meantime for the current reporting period, the September quarter, came in at 2.6 billion euros, well below the 5.6 billion euro mark that was expected by analysts. So that order book not looking as healthy as analysts forecasted. Back to the outlook, the group is joining a growing list of companies pointing the finger at China. ASML says it's facing challenges in China due to U.S. and Dutch export restrictions on advanced technology. Previously, China accounted for 49% of ASML sales, but the company now expects this to decrease to around 20% next year. The shift comes as the U.S. imposed new export controls on critical technologies to China, and the Dutch government announced plans to control exports of ASML's machines to the country, further impacting that revenue line.
You know, Daoling, the thing about you is that you will say some of these shocking things and just move on swiftly. You are saying ASML accidentally released their results.
The most funniest thing I read.
So a glitch on the website, and the results turn out to be disappointing.
Exactly. It was the funniest thing I read this morning, because I said, that cannot be the excuse.
All right, let's turn to pharma now, pharmaceuticals. I see J&J are facing litigation issues, and you are saying that they are taking a bit of their glimmer, a bit of their shine from their upbeat earnings.
And, Johnson & Johnson has been entangled in lengthy legal battles over the past few years. One that's been very notable is the battle over its talc products, including its baby powder. This, of course, causing concern among investors and pressure on its share price. And to resolve this, the company has proposed to place that subsidiary into bankruptcy for the third time, proposing an $8 billion settlement to be paid out over 25 years. Interestingly, 83% of plaintiffs now support this proposal, marking a shift from those previous rejections. This development aims to address, those ongoing litigation worries. And this move comes alongside its third quarter earnings, where J&J beat Wall Street expectations. The company's earnings reached $2.5 per share, surpassing the predicted $2.2 per share. Sales rose 5.2% to $22.5 billion. The group says the upbeat performance was due to a good showing from its pharmaceutical division, where it secured 5 new drug approvals, and its medical devices divisions showed resilience despite challenges it's facing in Asia.
All right, just a recap then of the markets, starting here at home, Asia and the United States.
So the market rally that took off at the beginning of the week has run out of steam, with traders taking a breather. They saw U.S. markets close in the red in yesterday's session. The Nasdaq taking the biggest knock there as major chip makers plunged following ASML's surprise earnings report. The same kind of sentiment played out on the local front, with the JSE closing mostly in negative territory. The all-share shed over 0.5%, fueled by a near 1.3% loss in the Industrial 25 index. The rand also not faring well, still trading above the 17.50 mark. Against the dollar this morning, it's sitting at 17.61. Over in Asia, the mood mostly sour, those markets following global peers as earnings season gets underway.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She'll be back with another update for you in the second hour of the morning brief, and look out for that just after 7:30 with another update of the economy, business, as well as the markets here at home and around the world.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
At 6:45, let's focus on this story now. The Gauteng Education Department says learners at another school have been hospitalized due to suspected food poisoning. The department says the learners from Rapelejo Primary School in New Easteras, Hammanskraal, were hospitalized on Monday after consuming chocolate reportedly sold by another pupil. Last week, over 70 learners from schools in the West Rand were also hospitalized for suspected food poisoning, not forgetting, of course, that incident in Soweto that led to the death of 6 pupils in a food poisoning incident. Let's bring in the Gauteng Education Department spokesperson, Steve Mabona. Good morning to you, Steve. Thank you for your time. So tell us about this latest incident in New Easteras. What do we know about the food poisoning incident that occurred in that area?
Good morning, Tula, and our listeners. Yes, quite sad indeed that we experienced another incident of suspected food poisoning. We were informed that the grade 7 learner was given this chocolate by a certain man. We don't know who is that. So, but they're hopeful that the police will assist us with this, process so that we can understand on who is this person. But yes, over 40 learners were admitted, observed overnight, and fortunately yesterday they were then discharged, majority of them, and we had about 4 left in 2 different hospitals. And late last night we were informed that the 3 have been released or discharged rather. We are only left with 1, which we will check today on how is the limit doing.
So, in terms of the source of this chocolate that may be linked to this incident, are you able to say a bit more? Some reports are suggesting that it may have come through the uncle of the one pupil.
Look, we don't have much information on that. We will leave other authorities to assist us with that process, and we should be in a position to be informed on who is this person. But safe to say that today we will continue with the process of education in collaboration with Department of Health. We will do health education just to sensitize learners on how to identify food that they should not consume. All those that we will be in a position to advise our children on how to navigate, around food, not only food that they buy, but food that they are about to consume, things that they need to look out for.
All right, thank you for that. That is Steve Mabona. He's the spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department, telling us about the latest incident in a string of incidents that we have seen, not only in the last month or so, but actually, goodness me, what do we say? Throughout the year, a number of them have been fatal, including, of course, those that were that incident that occurred in Naledi in Soweto that led to the death of 6 children. In fact, let's stick with that conversation. The National Consumer Commission has been conducting inspections in spaza shops in Soweto. This comes after the tragic deaths of 6 children from suspected poisoning in Naledi last week. The children are said to have bought snacks from a spaza shop. The Commission says its inspections have revealed alarming practices among local businesses. For more on that, let's bring into the conversation Prudence Muyilwa, who is Head of Complaints and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission. Good morning to you, ma'am. I've got to thank you for your time. So just a broad sense of what your investigation and inspections have brought to the fore out of the practices of spaza shops in areas like Soweto.
Yeah, no, thank you. The Commission, as correctly indicated, started these inspections in Soweto. That was the second day that you're speaking about that we have been conducting the inspections. It's a multidisciplinary team made up of law enforcement, the police, home affairs, and the environmental health practitioners for the Gauteng region. And basically, the inspections are meant to ensure that the food that is sold in the market is safe and to ensure compliance with regulation in general. The inspections, in my view, have gone very well, though it is quite disheartening to find that even in the light of the incidents that have happened in Naledi, the shops in Naledi are still non-compliant. We found a wide variety of issues that relate to the food that still visibly is not good for human consumption. We also found that widespread sale of non-compliant or expired foodstuffs that were still on the shelves, even yesterday and the day before. And also food that is visibly, not good for human consumption, including even baby products or baby food. We have proceeded to work with various law enforcement agencies to ensure that the shops that were operating without certificates of acceptability were issued not only with warning, some were closed where we found that the situation was dire.
Yeah.
And in certain instances, where foreign nationals were found to be operating without the proper papers or even passports in the country. The shops were then closed, and so there were some arrests that were also made in Naledi yesterday. So it has been quite an operation.
So if you were to answer, ma'am, if I can come in there, I think the overriding pinpointed question is, how is food that is making children sick finding its way to schools? What would be that answer for you from the work that you have done? I hear the multidisciplinary work you are talking about, but are you able to provide an answer to that straightforward, pinpointed question? How is food that is making children sick and leading to some of them dying finding its way to schools?
They're not finding themselves to school per se. I think it's because they find themselves in the communities.
I see.
Because obviously a school finds itself in a community wherein you find that the children would then be buying this type of food from the spaza shops or the shops that are in the area. So it's not necessarily that it's targeted at food, but I think it just talks to the issue of children having access to the markets, so to speak, wherein they find themselves being victim of the food that should not be in the other shops in the first place.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. To answer you.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer you, what we intend to do with the evidence that we collected is to find the source, to try and follow up and do various tests with our other stakeholders to actually find out is it the issue of food preparation, is it the issue of repackaging, is it the issue of where they are actually manufactured, where they get contaminated.
All right, thank you for that. And I'd say that it's quite urgent that we find that source. Where exactly in the food value chain is that occurring? That is Prudence Muyilwa, who is Head of Complaints and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It hasn't been the worst start around Gauteng this morning, but it is just starting to get busy now with the breakdown on the N1 North before William Mandela. The right lane is closed. If you're coming up from Randburg through the four-ways, just expect some queuing pressure on that run through. The roadworks on the R21 are again causing problems. Airport bound before Olifantsfontein Road. Make sure you've got plenty of time. You may have got through that last couple of weeks and thought, this is great, it's flowing. But all of a sudden, I think since yesterday or maybe even Friday, we saw a resumption of the lane closures and the delays. So if you're on your way for flight connections, just give yourself time to get through that Clayville area and to get through the lane restrictions. N1 looks fairly heavily backed from the Brockfontein interchange down towards New Road, and the Mike 1 from Gold Reef City already jam-packed right through Boysons and Crown and right up towards Oxford Road in the Parktown area. Durban, you'll need plenty of time to get up and through the N2 highway this morning. It's further complicated, not only the roadworks north of Spaghetti Junction, but this truck fire incident on the Mgeni off-ramp. Traffic is across all lanes, heavy. It now starts to queue back towards the cement factory. Certainly by the time I wrap this report up, it's going to be standing there. So if you're coming in from the south, you've got to take alternative options, maybe off-ramp at the M7, run up through Bel Air, take the M4 Southern Freeway, although that gets busy in the mornings as well. But just make sure you've got plenty of time to get up that N2 through towards Mgeni Road. It is a lot worse than you'd normally expect to find. Cape Town Baden-Powell Drive open. You got caught yesterday with some big traffic diverting around some sand, but the wind was fairly calm yesterday. Baden-Powell has patches of sand at Coastal Park, but it's largely moving. And the Viking Way option coming in from Avonwood Norwood side through Epping, passing the old showground area and across towards Jan Smuts. That section of Viking Way unusually slow going. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course.
We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
And so close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out of Bumo. They've done it again. Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let me take two quick calls before we get to the top of the hour. Let's speak to Mboneni. Mboneni, good morning. You are in Ennerdale and you want to give me a reaction from a school governing body about the issue of tuck shops and food poisoning.
Yeah, absolutely true, Tulas. Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. Actually, what is happening with the vendors that are coming across the fence of the school, we've been speaking to them several times, and we also ask assistance from the bylaws of Metropolitan Police. But certainly we didn't get any assistance from them. And most of these people who are selling, I'm not being xenophobic, most are foreigners. They are selling these snacks, and some of them within that queue of the vendors, they are also selling Yaupe. And we've been reporting this to our nearest police station, which is Hillbrow. Nothing has been done. And therefore, as a chairperson, we have a cluster, one of the officers that is looking the issue of searching kids randomly, but nothing is happening. So we are arranging that it is better for us to call other schools, which are neighboring schools, to march to the City Council of Johannesburg, to do some of the other means to ensure that these vendors are no longer around the fence of the schools, because we've been talking this years and years. And most of the things that are happening is those snacks that are being sold by the vendors. And therefore, all schools that are around Parktown, Hillbrow, Berea, they do have their own check shop. That tech shop, the kids now, they are no longer buying within. They wait. If you come now as I speak to you, they are there now and the kids are queuing. Some also make this to be late in the classes.
Right.
So it's about our bylaws that are not working and assisting the schools.
All right, thank you for that. That's Mboneni there with an interesting take and also lived experience, first-hand experience as a leader of the school governing body. Let's take the views of Bulelani, who is in Fourways. Bulelani, good morning. You want to talk about the same topic?
Yes, thanks, Matumas. You know, we've seen so many videos on the social media circulating where these foreign nationals have been manufacturing certain food products and some fake products and all those things. And I asked myself at the time when those videos were circulating, and I said my biggest concern is that they are going to infiltrate the food value chain. And this is where we find ourselves in now, because even the vendors that you find at schools selling these products, they buy from the very same sources as the spaza shops that are supplying these things in our townships. They buy from the very same people that manufacture these things in dodgy places. So I was listening to a conversation with the lady from the National Consumer. I so wish that they will be fast-tracking this thing of trying to look into who is the source and they deal with this. Because if we don't deal with this, we will find ourselves, even the credible retailers we know today, your Pick n Pays and Macros, we will find ourselves buying certain products that are coming from the very same source, because these people will start infiltrating the whole food value chain.
All right,
we are in trouble.
Thank you. Let's leave it there. Thank you for that insight, Bulelani. There, it would seem that there are certain concrete ideas of some of the sources that just need tightening of screws and the implementation of laws. At 7 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
OUTsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, 2 suspected extortionists killed in a shootout with police, and Mboweni granted a special official funeral. Good morning. 2 suspected extortionists have been killed and another seriously wounded in a shootout with police on the N1 near Sanctuary City in Cape Town. Police spokesperson Malcolm Puyas says officers followed up on information about the 3 suspects extorting businesses. He says during a high-speed chase, the suspects fired at police who retaliated. Preparations are underway for the funeral of former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni in Limpopo on Saturday morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded Mboweni a special official funeral Category 2. Ramaphosa has also directed the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations in the country from this morning until Saturday morning. Mboweni died on Saturday following a short illness at the age of 65. Communications and Digital Technologies Deputy Minister Mondli Gungubele has again emphasized the importance of the finalization of the SABC bill. The SABC appeared before Parliament's Portfolio Committee to present its 2023-2024 annual reports and financial statements. The bill, which has been in the pipelines for nearly 16 years, seeks to change the SABC's funding model. Gungubele has called on the committee to ensure the bill is finalized urgently. The Automobile Association says the anticipated fuel price hikes will come at a time when most consumers and motorists are still struggling financially. The 5-month trend of the fuel decreases is set to end next month. This is because of higher international product prices and a steady softening of the rand against the US dollar. The AA in a statement says 95-octane petrol is expected to increase by around 14 cents a litre, with 93 increasing by around 3 cents. Diesel is expected to go up by around 14 cents and illuminating paraffin by around 7 cents a litre. Hezbollah says it has fired a barrage of rockets towards the northern Israeli town of Safed. Israel's military says it detected about 50 rockets, some of which were intercepted. There are no reports of casualties. Earlier, Hezbollah's Deputy Secretary General said the group was still prepared to target all areas of Israel, but he has acknowledged the solution to the conflict is a ceasefire. Recapping the top story, 2 suspected extortionists have been killed and another seriously wounded in a shootout with police on the N1 near Sanctuary City in Cape Town. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. OUTsurance, where you always get something out. Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
It just shows that OUTsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Into Durban, team still busy with the truck fire incident on the N2 North at Umgena Road. The traffic is extreme today. It backs from the cement factory all the way through towards Umgeni Road. It is super solid. While we're staying in Durban, the M4, the Southern Freeway alternative route, that's already choked up through Umbulo and Durban. You might be able to sneak through using this sort of M7 and Bel Air Road and get yourself up to the N3 into Durban and onto the route first. It's doable, but you want to avoid the N2 and, where possible, avoid the M4 as well. Pretty heavy going into Pinetown, M7, backlogging from Hunstedman Highway all the way through towards St John's Avenue Bridge this morning, and another fatal crash, pretty much where last week's big crash was, N2 M2 South approaching Mandini. Just watch for slowing traffic at that scene. Joburg, the bike one extending a queue from Gold Reef City right through to Parktown's Oxford Road at this stage. Breakdown before Four Ways exit coming up from Randburg, so some extra delays there. And very busy northern parts of Pretoria if you're coming down through Vanderboom Port, Vanderboom Pass or Vanderboom Junction. It's all heavily backed up trying to get through Steve Biko, trying to get through Mansfield onto Paul Kruger. Some unusual queues there. And Cape Town with a problem at Loxton Road on Marine Drive. We think it's a timing issue between the two lights there. It means a heavy run through. Traffic already standing from as far back as Bayside Mall in Tableview. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket action. The Proteas women have stormed into the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup. They'll face Australia. And we also have soccer action where Bafana were held to a 1-1 draw by the host Congo in the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. We'll bring you all the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. This is the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. It is all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Well, just to round off on the conversation that we had started in the previous hour about food safety and how food that leads to children being sick and in some instances dying ends up being consumed by those children, particularly in the context of schools. Sometimes I can talk a bit like, an auctioneer, at the pace of an auctioneer, and sometimes, I need to slow it down a bit. I guess the point I was making towards the end of the hour there was that it seems to me that there are only a limited number of places to look for the source of the introduction of poisonous substances mingling with food that ends up being consumed by children. It can be at the manufacturing point, at the storage point, wholesale point, as well as, how it's then stored by the stockists, the spaza shops and the vendors. And also you heard there from the callers that we took, that were talking about vendors that position themselves just outside the schools. So you sort of get a sense of inspect there. What are the practices? Where are they getting these from? It doesn't seem like rocket science, does it? It just doesn't seem like rocket science. Is it being done? If it is, why are we seeing these incidents and it looks like there's no getting to the bottom of it? And of course, I appreciate the interlinked conversation about enforcement of other laws, including immigration laws and bylaws, to ensure that the ecosystem as a whole works effectively to protect our children. So I thought I should just round off on that and say the leads are there. It's just a matter of the will for the people to get to the bottom thereof. Coming up in this hour, I'll be in conversation in the next few minutes with the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kisweta. We'll be talking about them saying that they've received over 1 million applications for tax directives for withdrawals from the two-pot system. And in total, since the system opened at the beginning of September, withdrawals have come up to 21.4 billion rand. We'll also talk to Dean McPherson, who is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. He'll be telling us about what they are calling a bid window, which is about preparatory support for large public sector projects. He will make sense of it all. What does it mean? How will it make things better to ensure that big projects are delivered on time, on scale, and also within budget, or as close to budget as possible? We are taking your calls as well, and the number for that is 086 000 2032. Also, your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Mzansi, don't let the Lotto jackpot estimated at 77 million rand pass you by this Wednesday. That's right. Play Lotto for an estimated 77 million rand jackpot today, and you could be celebrating the millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery. After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to Outsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
It just shows that Outsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
12 minutes after 7. Let's turn to this story now. The South African Revenue Service, SARS, says it has received over 1 million applications for tax directives for withdrawals from the two-pot system. In total, SARS says the total gross lump sum paid out to date is 21.4 billion rand. After a registered taxpayer successfully applies for a two-pot savings withdrawal, SARS issues a tax directive to inform the fund manager how much tax to deduct from the withdrawal. Let's take the conversation further. I'm joined by Edward Kisweta, who is the SARS Commissioner. Good morning to you, Commissioner. How do these numbers tally with what your expectations were before the two-pot retirement system came into effect? Are they beyond your expectations or within your expectations?
Good morning, Thulas. I think there were various numbers that were penciled in, and the sense was that probably up to about 6.5 million people would eventually withdraw in the first year. So the numbers that you've quoted have since been updated. So it's about 1.4 million applications that have been received by the various funds. And of those, 1.33 million have already been processed. I think we've worked quite hard with the funds to ensure that these applications are processed immediately. We've really built a technology and data-driven system. And we are online. Members may apply or funds may apply 24/7. And for those that we receive between the hours of 8 o'clock and 7 p.m., the turnaround time is an hour, which is why these numbers keep on clocking up every day.
I see.
There are a number of applications. Also the fund value is now standing at just under 24.5 billion rand. So there's a steady increase of numbers. There's a steady increase of the value of the fund.
So you're saying, and I appreciate, Commissioner, what you're saying about the numbers keep increasing, but as we speak at this hour at least, the fund value of withdrawals has come up to about 24 billion rand.
24 billion, and that's, we will do the overnight tally this morning.
Sure.
And I'm sure that number would creep up again in about the next hour or two when I get my next update.
What are the revenue implications for you from these withdrawals that are taking place? Are you able to get a sense of, the projections of where you might land up in terms of revenue?
Two things. The first is that the whole purpose of the directive by the fund is to allow the retirement funds to know what tax to withhold. That, we always said, again, will be somewhere between 6 or 9 billion. Some estimates would be higher than that. And then in addition to that, we know of the funds that, or not the funds, the individuals who already have applied for a directive and have received a directive. There's a further, to date, 600 million rand of outstanding debt that will be collected, because we are using this to say, if we've been reminding you that you owe SARS debt and up until now you have not, for any reason, certainly SARS will, as it is permissible in law, withhold the debt. And we issue these debt recovery notices as well.
Yeah,
so far, over 100,000 non-compliant taxpayers would have issued a debt notice.
Yeah, in fact, you go to the point I wanted to raise, the extent to which the requirement for these for people to apply for these directives is helping you in detecting non-compliance and in a way encouraging taxpayers to get their affairs in order. Is that the reason why this was designed such that it requires the taxpayer to do something themselves as opposed to letting the fund manager handle the whole process on the back end?
Not intentionally to us. Remember, the application for a directive is not something new. And so it is standard practice that when sometimes when a member reaches retirement age or when there's voluntary separation or retrenchments, whenever the fund has to make a determination of the final payout, it is a requirement for them to make an application to SARS to receive a directive that tells them how much tax the individual owes. And so that's to allow them to pay out only the amount that is due to the member. So that's not a new practice. So what we have done, more to manage expectations, is to tell individuals, be aware that the money that was withdrawn, remember always, we seem to forget so easily and conveniently, that when this money was deducted from your income every month, no tax was deducted from that money, and it was always the design that when you receive the payout in the future, that would then be the time when the deduction of tax is triggered. Now you are doing an accelerated withdrawal, and therefore you're also accelerating the tax deduction. Unfortunately for most people, it may push up the marginal rate, and for this year they may find themselves paying overall slightly higher tax. And for what we have done is to manage expectations. We've sent out these communications to say, please make sure that your banking details are in order, make sure you have no outstanding returns, make sure you have no outstanding debt. If you have outstanding debt, make sure you either pay that or enter into an arrangement with SARS. And these are just, I mentioned earlier, and we're able to do a turnaround time of an hour.
Yeah.
And it is because we have asked taxpayers to ensure that all of their affairs are ready.
So lastly then, Commissioner, where applicants for withdrawals in the two-pot system, but also for these tax directives, then say that they're experiencing delays between those applications and payout, would your door be the right one to knock at and ask where these delays are coming from?
No, Thulas. Let me just say a few things also, especially for those listeners who are keen, that there's a number of reasons for a tax directive being declined by the fund. That is, if there's more than one application, and some people put in more than one application, the second application will be declined by the fund, or if there are any information. But that's an engagement between the fund and the member. Once a directive is sent to SARS, we have found that 40% of our declining status came from an ID validation failure. In other words, the number that is supplied to us is different from the number that we have. And the second reason is when there is an invalid tax number, which is why we are saying to individuals, any delay will be caused almost always by your own issues. So make sure these issues are in order. What I want to say is that there is no delay from the application to us. They will get the answer whether it is a decline, and it's only 3% decline so far, but whether it's a decline or the 97% that we've approved will be done almost immediately.
All
There's
right,
no delay.
I've got to thank you for your time. You heard the Commissioner there. So when you're doing these applications, I find just run your finger through each line of detail that you are having to fill out. You are likely to pick up any of the flaws and faults. He says 40% of declining status. A lot of it has to do with errors such as ID details or taxpayer number. So just be careful as you do those processes. SARS Commissioner there, Edward Kisweta, in conversation with us.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think our insurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to our insurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
At 23 minutes past 7, let's turn to this story. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure has opened a first-of-its-kind bid window offering preparatory support to large public sector projects that can catalyze economic growth. Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure Dean McPherson says the initiative is a crucial step to expand infrastructure investment, economic growth and job creation. The Minister, Dean McPherson, joins me now on the line to talk about this bid window and preparatory support. It's big concepts, Minister, and I must say I do not fully understand. So explain it to me. The concept of a bid window and the preparatory support that you are seeking to infuse into infrastructure projects. What exactly is that and how does it move the needle in terms of delivery of services?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, to you and your listeners. Let me put it simply like this. We are attaching a turbocharger to the engine of infrastructure development in South Africa with this latest move. As you correctly said, it is a first of its kind. It's a new innovative thinking in the Department and in Infrastructure South Africa. That says we recognize one of the biggest failures to get infrastructure projects off of the ground is to ensure that they are adequately prepared and packaged for private sector investment. So we, in partnership with National Treasury, have made 600 million rand available over the next 3 years to work with various provincial governments, local governments, departments, national departments, and other entities to make this funding available through ESA, where they will bring projects that are worth more than 1 billion rand in nature to ESA. We will then assess the value of them and whether they do indeed move the economic needle and create jobs. And then we will then work with them at our cost to make sure that those projects meet the bankability requirements of international funders that we have very good relationships with. We will make sure that they meet regulatory compliance so that when we get to the stage of financial close, that we are ready to go and ready for liftoff, so that we can get these projects off of the ground much quicker.
So is this the work that would otherwise be done by consultants at great expense to public entities to just try and get them, as you say, get these projects prepped and packaged such that they are bankable? Is this the work that would ordinarily be done by consultants?
It may be done by them, but it also may be done by various departments or arms of the state, which don't have the technical capacity or capability to package and prepare these projects into the state that they need to be so that we can take them to the market. The other advantage of this, Thulasizwe, is that Infrastructure South Africa has a very good name in private capital markets, and so we are able to raise finance in conjunction with the contributions of the state at possibly lower levels of interest than, say, a provincial government might, and in fact, compared to a local municipality, which probably wouldn't be able to raise any finance at all. So it's about bringing credibility to projects, it's about bringing certainty to projects, and it's about getting them ready as quickly as possible so that we have speed to market and we're able to get going.
So who are the clients that you are targeting? I see that you have an application deadline and you're saying that it closes on the 6th of December 2024. Who is supposed to get on their laptops right now and apply to you for this kind of support?
Well, I hope that a number of municipal managers are listening, heads of department, DGs in various government departments, because those are who we're looking to target. We're also saying that we want the private sector in conjunction with government sectors to be able to apply, so where they think they can work better together, and we will also accept those applications. So it's really aimed at government-led infrastructure projects because that's what the regulations allow for at this present time. We are working, to make that a bit better so that we can take more private sector investment. But that's who our intended clients are at this point.
And you have a list of priority sectors. Tell me a bit about those and also talk to, when you have the threshold being 1 billion rand, it suggests to me, Minister, that you've done your scan of the environment and you are convinced that there is a pipeline, a viable pipeline within the sectors that you have identified. Tell me a bit more about that.
So, Thulasizwe, what we've done initially is we have, in fact, a really good pipeline of projects. And over the last 3 months, I've been working to match those financing opportunities with the pipeline. We are now looking forward to what is the next iteration of that pipeline look like, and this is what this is all about. And I'm convinced that where you have tariff-related infrastructure projects, maybe water, transmission, roads, port and railway, that's where we get the most interest from the private sector because we really need them to come alongside us to fund these projects. So we have made those priority projects because we know that those are a lot more attractive than those that don't have tariffs related, because then we would have to solely rely on government funding for those projects, which just isn't available at this moment. So those projects that are focused on water and sanitation, which is something we really need to resolve, those that are focused on port and railway efficiency and effectiveness, and also into the upcoming transmission window, which hopefully should be open sooner rather than later. Those are the kind of projects that we think can make a difference. And I also want to emphasize, particularly in local government, it is a big focus of mine is to make sure that we partner and work with local government to get their infrastructure priorities resolved so that we don't see some of the scenes across the country that we are exposed to.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Dean McPherson, who is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, talking about this bid window. Government trying to infuse better project preparation and packaging so that these projects that are being developed across the three spheres of government are bankable and ready. Shovel ready is the word, the expression that is being used. At 7:30, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 20% of children up to the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition and stunting in South Africa, according to non-profit organization SA Harvest. This as South Africa joins the international community in observing World Food Day. 2 suspected extortionists have been killed and another seriously wounded in a shootout with police on the N1 near Sanctuary City in Cape Town. Police spokesperson Malcolm Peyer says officers followed up on information about 3 suspects extorting businesses. And preparations are underway for the funeral of former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni in Limpopo on Saturday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story says the enormous backlog on Durban's N2 North from basically Chatsworth all the way through to Mgeta Road, where we've got the authorities dealing with an earlier truck fire incident. So the roadworks after Spaghetti Junction, truck fire at Mgeta Road, very heavy. It's even causing a bit of a pushback on the N3 ramp as well, coming in from Pavilion. In fact, there's quite heavy traffic coming through Pavilion in towards Spaghetti Junction. M4, one of the alternative routes, jam-packed from Mbelo and Kongela up into central Durban. And just staying in the region, M7's heavy this morning into Pinetown. Big long queues from Hans Detman all the way through to St John's Avenue Bridge territory. Northern parts of Pretoria, Vanderboom Junction, Vanderboom Port, Vanderboom Pass, all snarled up. If you're coming off Lavender Road, you've got a couple of exits there which are all very, very busy. A crash on the N4 highway going into Pretoria. This is the Emelathleni highway before the N1, so push back to Watermeer Street. Roadworks on the R21 South approaching Olifantsfontein causing problems, and a breakdown on the M1 North going up to Four Ways, William Mandela. Stationary traffic as far back as sort of Bay as Nordia, so Randburg through Four Ways under pressure. Cape Town's R300 jam-packed from Delft up towards the Van Riebeeck exit to Kales River and Marine Drive. Again, problem with those lights at Woodbridge Island. Traffic this morning queuing from Sunningdale side, looking pretty heavy. The alternatives, Malabongwe out off Sandown Road towards Dunoon, and the Bloberg Road to Kuberg Road, also both noticeably busier. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning once again, Zai. I see that the Proteas women pulled a bit of a Bafana at a tournament for us, in that we had to take out our calculators.
Yes.
And fortunately for us, the math added up.
Yeah, West Indies, we owe you a coffee, man. Listen. Yeah. It was Protea fire, but in that kind of way, as you put it. And what can I say? England were blown away by the Windies. And the Proteas women now will be into that Women's T20 World Cup semi-final. It was quite a wait for that outcome of that match. Proteas confirmed as the second team in their group, and they will be setting up a thrilling showdown against the world champions, Australia. And of course, the semi-final will be a rematch of last year's final, where the Aussies narrowly claimed victory. And this time, the Proteas women are determined to go all the way. Now, drama at the moment with the Bangladesh Cricket Board saying it has suspended head coach Chandika Hathurusingha for misconduct, including an alleged assault of a player. Trinidadian former all-rounder Phil Simmons has been appointed as stand-in coach and will take the team up against the ICC Champions Trophy set for Pakistan in February 2025. There was no immediate response from Hathurusingha. The 56-year-old former Sri Lanka batsman was hired in 2023 for a second time as head coach after a largely successful tenure with the side between 2014 and 2017. Bangladesh next plays South Africa at home, with the first of 2 tests starting on the 21st of October. Soccer action. South Africa were held to a 1-1 draw by host Congo in a 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier, all played at the Alfonso Maseba Debat Stadium in Brazzaville last night. The result, which featured goals from Elias Mokwena and Monspo Sumina, takes Bafana closer to securing qualification for the continental finals in Morocco next year. Another match saw an injury time winner from Sadio Mane securing Senegal's qualification for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, while Angola, DR Congo and Egypt have also reached the finals with 2 rounds of matches to spare. In the meantime, Gabon, they move up to second in Group B after a 2-0 win over Lesotho. Uganda edging South Sudan 2-1 in Group K with an own goal from Alfred Leku proving decisive. Zambia made sure to get all 3 points. They won 1-0 against Chad in their encounter at the Amadou Ahijo Stadium. The result seeing Tupelo go just 2 points behind the Group G leaders Ivory Coast. Elsewhere, Thomas Tuchel has signed a deal to become the new England manager. The 51-year-old German ends the wait for a permanent new head coach following Gareth Southgate's resignation in the summer. Tuchel has been out of work since leaving Bayern Munich at the end of last season. And finally, rugby. The Bulls have bid farewell to another Springbok in Lionel Mapu, who announced his retirement on social media. Mapu, who had 2 stints at the Bulls and spent most of his career at the Emirates Lions, was Springboks number 844 and made his Bok debut in 2015 against the All Blacks. In all, he played 15 tests for the Boks between 2015 and 2018. Mapu also played for the Springbok 7 side, South Africa A and SA Under 20. That's how we wrap up your sport on the morning brief. More for you at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's catch up with Ndauling Lechela for the second update of the morning. And Ndauling, the demand for services provided by Bytes Technology, I see that's doing wonders in terms of boosting their earnings.
That's right. The UK-based JC-listed tech company that was spun off by Altron has continued to deliver positive earnings to sustain growth throughout, I think, a 2 to 3 year period now. During the half-year period, revenue declined, but profit grew 25% to £41.5 million. This growth was driven by strong demand for its software offerings. Despite intense competition, the company's margin improved as well. The group also benefited from continued contributions from public sector contracts, including the UK's National Health Service and HM Revenue and Customs. Bytes is known for reselling software, particularly Microsoft licenses, and it works with big public sector contracts. Looking ahead, Bytes remains focused on executing its growth strategy through strengthening customer relationships and extending vendor partnerships. The company believes it's still well positioned to benefit from demand drivers in cloud computing, cybersecurity, and AI for the remainder of its 2025 financial year, leveraging off that partnership it has with Microsoft.
And your next story in Dowling, I don't know, I've got strong views on it. So it turns out we do have a best network in South Africa. My overall view is that the quality is actually deteriorating, especially voice call. I feel like it's deteriorating. And the speeds that they're talking about, I don't know. I'm not experiencing it. But there you have it. It seems we have the best network in South Africa. Which one is it?
According to a report, I'm also not of the opinion that this is the best network, but I guess it's not about us here. No. It seems like MTN is giving its competitors a run for their money. During the third quarter, the mobile network operator was ranked as South Africa's best mobile network. This is according to a My Broadband Insights report. The findings, based on nearly 300,000 speed tests, shows MTN's average download speed of 106 megabits per second outperformed its competitors. Vodacom came in second with 94 megabits per second, while South Sea showed significant improvement with 68 megabits per second. Telkom and Rail trailed behind. Now, MTN excelled in major cities like Tshwane, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Nelson Mandela Bay. And MTN's success seems to be due to the decade-long investment of 10 billion rands annually in infrastructure, which has contributed to its sustained network performance. Cell C's resurgence came as a surprise, of course, largely driven by CEO George Mendes' efforts, which also improved its download speed. It seems like the strategy or the turnaround strategy taking place there is just improving its overall performance. Vodacom, in the meantime, delivered the fastest 5G speed in the country. Now, this report being welcomed by the industry and its players, as it highlights how crucial internet access for South Africa's growth and development is when it comes to driving economic development. Now, we've also been seeing telco players extending and improving their reach and connectivity. Vodacom recently announcing its investment plans in KZN and Free State.
All right, good for the players in that sector if things are improving. Hopefully the two of us will start feeling that improvement. Lastly, please give us a recap of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So starting off in Asia, stocks mostly in the red, tracking a U.S. sell-off, as investors weighed if the artificial intelligence rally that's powered the bull market recently still has room to run. This, of course, follows that downbeat forecast from ASML. With that, we saw the Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest knock in that region, down 1.8%. Over in Wall Street, futures mixed, with the Nasdaq seemingly staging a recovery after yesterday's sour close. Back at home, markets closing mostly in negative territory, with the all-shade down over 0.5%. And in the currency scene, the rand weakening as sentiment on risk assets continues to sour. It's trading at 17.62 to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. Ntauleng Lechela will be back one more time in the third hour of the morning brief, just ahead of the opening of trade for this Wednesday on the JSE. She will give you that update just after 8:30 here on the morning brief.
The 2024 Health Excellence Awards, hosted by Cliniques Health Group and the South African Clinician Scientist Society, is calling for nominations. This is your chance to recognize exceptional doctors, specialists, and medical professionals who are making an impact. The celebration of the 4th Annual Health Excellence Awards will take place on 16 November 2024 at Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg. Visit www.healthexcellenceawards.co.za to enter your nomination before 20 October 2024.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mzansi, don't let the Lotto jackpot estimated at 77 million rand pass you by this Wednesday. That's right. Play Lotto for an estimated 77 million rand jackpot today and you could be celebrating the millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's bring in Advocate Sipho Mantula for that Africa Update. Good morning to you, Raz. Let's start in Kenya. There's rumblings and ructions within the presidency of that country. I see that process to try and impeach the vice president is forging ahead.
Listeners, you'll see that the Chief Justice Kome has now put 3 judges to handle 6 petitions challenging this impeachment of the vice president. Last week, the High Court said that there were constitutional matters on this issue. And as you know, the Senate has to still vote to us in terms of the removal of the deputy president, which you can still also challenge it with the court. So far, President William Ruto has not said anything about this process of his first deputy president, who might be the first since the Kenyan Constitution of 2010 was adopted, to say, how do you deal with the removal of the second citizen who is the highest leader in the government?
Closer to home, Sipho, elections in Botswana, it's never, I don't know, maybe you might have a different experience. Once you mention intelligence in political affairs, it never makes for a good outcome. But I see that you're talking about the Directorate of Intelligence and Security and the alleged confidential report. What's that all about?
Remember you have primary elections going on in Gaborone amongst the ruling party members. Now, one of the party members lost to another one in one of the areas. Now, for the Directorate of Intelligence of Botswana to be interested, it is raising those concerns. Despite that, we know Thulas, on elections, issues of security comes in terms of analysis, in terms of pitching up the pre-election violence. But you wonder what is the interest of the intelligence officers in Gaborone's elections also, in terms of the candidates who are going to be either ministers or who are going to be members of parliament, but they have denied those charges to us, saying they are not actually involved, they are non-partisan into these political processes that are going on, but it's the nature of elections in the African continent to us that most of the political parties, they are using intelligence for their own benefit.
And speaking of elections in the Southern African region, Mozambique, it looks like Frelimo, the eternal flame that the late Miriam Makeba sang about, will continue to burn, but the opposition and others are not impressed.
They are, and remember, we have not yet received the official result from the Mozambican elections. What you see, your Renamo, your independent, coming from Montana, who's a breakaway member from Renamo, that they are lamenting that there have been some irregularities, some massive electoral fraud. And the issue here to us is that even if you have those issues, you have issues of diaspora vote as well that I wanted to touch, that you have people from Zimbabwe who are supporting Frelimo who voted in these elections, but you can only prove that in the electoral court or even electoral tribunal. And remember, just before elections, there was some rift in terms of electoral laws, the issue of powers of the Electoral Commission and the courts. So this might also be a good case if SADC Observer Mission has given the thumbs up, the AU has given the thumbs up, and the Commonwealth has doubts to us, and that's how we should be focusing on these elections of Mozambique to say, but what is it if we have to have a proper, credible, and peaceful elections in the continent when we have these issues of electoral fraud or rigging that is taking place?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this last story to the front and center, Wenasipo. The Percy Qoboza Memorial Lecture. Crucial, quite important conversation, and they could not have chosen a more fitting person to deliver it today.
No, correctly, Thulas. And remember, people will say, but who's Percy Qoboza? He was the editor of the World newspaper who was detained for 5 months. In 1977, hence you have this day called the Black Wednesday or the Media Freedom Day. Now, as today, UNISA and the Qoboza family and the National Press Club, they are looking at the issue to us of the what you can call the freedom of expression in the digital era, as well as the role of the media in shaping public thinking on elections. Now, we'll be giving the lecture is a seasoned media executive and academic on her own right to us, Thulasizwe Simelane, who was at the SABC at some point. I see in the panel one of the SABC at the SAFM also have a short stint, Shuwengu, who's with the Media Development Diversity Agency, will be there. Hopefully Chinono from Zimbabwe Thulas will be on the panel. And I see another Sipho Mantula also will be on the panel Thulas on this topic today around the issues of digital media and as well as the role of media in elections.
Yeah, look, Patiswa Makopeni, really the right choice, I would say. I would strongly argue to deliver that Percy Qoboza memorial lecture. And of course, as you say, one advocate, Sipho Mantula, will feature in it. Lastly, Sipho, your historical archives, you're taking us to 16 October 1985, and it's not the Rivonia trial, but it's another significant trial in the struggle against apartheid.
That is very true, and one of the longest trials in the history of this country. Our law students, they must just look at that trial, 39 years ago, the Dalmas prison trial. You remember Popo Molefe was part of it, Terale Kota, This was a trial that took place from 1985 to 1989. It was one of the longest trials, like I said, to us, but it was over 10 in 1989. Interesting in our archives, as we have said, from the Rivonia trial to the Delmas prison trial of the freedom fighters who fought for this country for many years. Thulas, asante sana, as was leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Africa Human Rights Month.
All right, thank you for that. That's Advocate Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, just giving you a flavor of some of the key stories that may be bubbling under, but you should be aware of, that are playing themselves out across the continent.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Oh, still terribly backed up around Durban, Z2 North this morning. It's the truck fire incident at the Mgena Road off-ramp, so you've got that on top of the normal roadworks. The N2 is heavily backed up all the way through to the cement factory. The alternative M4 is now quite bad from Clarewood up through Umbilo and Congela, the M4 Southern Freeway as an alternative route. It's obviously taking bigger volumes, as is Bel Air Road off the M7. A lot of people trying to sneak up that way up towards Rick Turner and beyond, so it's heavy. Felix Clamini, Brickfield Road, if you like, from the N3 going up towards Alpine Road, hoping to sneak through to Mgena Road. So it's not only the N2 that's under pressure, anything that acts like an alternative is also taking quite a lot of strain as well. M7 into Pinetown towards St John's Avenue Bridge remains a problem as well. Queues back towards the N3. Joburg got a breakdown on the N1 northbound before Winnie Mandela. It's been cleared, just been cleared, but left a backlog from Randburg through to Sunninghill. Mike 1 is a completely different pattern of traffic this morning from Gold Reef City right through to basically Grayston Drive. And don't forget, if you're on your way to the airport, roadworks back on the R21 before Olifantsfontein causing delays, and the R24 out towards the airport approaching Barbara Road is starting to backlog as well. Cape Town, a very busy morning. You can see that on a couple of routes. The R300 with absolutely no incidents, just full of traffic between Delft and Brackenfell. That's very slow going. N7 south from Plattercliff Road, big queues down to Bosmansdam Road this morning, and quite busy around Somerset West. The N2 queuing both ways in and out of Cape Town towards the Victoria Street Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
You and I have a country to build, difficult conversations to have, solutions to find, and stories to tell. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 p.m. to midnight.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
8 minutes to 8 here on the Morning Brief. By the end of August 2024, over 1.6 million HIV-negative people in South Africa had used the anti-HIV pill at least once, making the country's HIV prevention pill program the world's largest. The pill, known as pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP, can either be taken daily or intermittently and can lower the chances of contracting HIV through sexual intercourse by close to 0%. In comparison, over 3.5 million people around the world had used the pill in 2023. Let's take that conversation forward. I'm joined on the line now by Dr. Letugwenama Letswalo, who is a medical doctor and public health advocate. Good morning to you, Doc. I've got to thank you for your time. Just the basics first. I mean, there are a lot of acronyms, PEP, ART, antiretroviral treatment, but now we're talking PrEP. What is PrEP, and how is it? Why is it being described as a game changer in the HIV treatment regime?
Good morning, Thulas, to you and your listeners, and thank you so much for having me. So I'm so excited that we're having this conversation. You're asking a very important question, right? Because there are all these names and they might come a bit confusing for people. So PrEP is very, very important. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, like you've said now. And what this means, pre means before, and prophylaxis means it's preventing something, right? So when it comes to HIV, this is revolutionary medication that we've had since around 2019 in South Africa. And this is a pill that you take once a day, every day, to help protect you from contracting HIV. So initially, when the pill was introduced, it was given to high-risk people, so people who were sex workers and people who were having sex with men, and that's how it started. But now it's widely available in almost all public facilities, and these are free at all these healthcare centers. So the aim here is to reduce the numbers of HIV that we have in South Africa, because South Africa is still the epicenter of HIV globally.
And just its effectiveness, what can you tell us about that?
Excuse me?
What can you tell us about its effectiveness in terms of preventing the contracting of HIV?
Yeah, so the data that we have has really shown us that PrEP is effective in preventing HIV. But what's very important with that is that it needs to be taken as prescribed. So you might hear that, different groups are told to take the medication differently. So if you are taking PrEP, you must take it exactly like your doctor has prescribed, and make sure that, there's a 7-day period that you need to wait and make sure that it's in your system and it's working before you can actually engage in sexual intercourse. But with that, as much as we do have PrEP, what we and the Forever Winner movement also like to encourage young people to do is to use other ways to protect them against other STIs, because PrEP will prevent HIV, but there's still other sexually transmitted infections. So condom use is still very important. Contraceptive care for people who are aren't ready to have children is also very important to consider when it comes to engaging in sexual activities as well.
And we are talking now about its use in South Africa being one of the highest in the world. Are there South Africa-specific factors that make that to be the case? You mentioned earlier on that when it was introduced, it was about being directed at vulnerable groups. But I'm wondering, in terms of social dynamics, the ability to negotiate condom use, the ability to negotiate, preventative treatment in this country?
Yeah, so it's more widely available now. Like I said, it's a lot more facilities that actually have it. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations, so NGOs, that actually host this. You find that in a lot of university institutions and prison clinics. You find that all the PrEP medication, the pills that are quite available. The uptake is good, but we do have targets to actually enroll more people. So compared to global statistics, South Africa does have a very good uptake of people using PrEP, but I still think that what the data shows us is that we still need to have more conversations. We still need to make it more readily available, especially because a lot of people don't want to go to clinics because of the issues that we know, such as long waiting times. Sometimes it's staff treatment, sometimes it's stigma about being in the clinic, especially when it comes to men. So that's why Forever Winner is one of those platforms where we want to have these conversations about sex and safe sex and how you can actually protect yourself, even from HIV as well. So I do think that, this conversation that we're having now is quite important in trying to alleviate that and empower people to be able to take agency when it comes to their sex and sexual health.
And I guess another important aspect of this conversation, Doc, is taking it exactly as prescribed. This is a conversation that has been relevant over the years as far as antiretroviral treatment is concerned. Earlier on, you said it's taken daily. Is this over a period of time prescribed, or is this daily for the rest of your life?
That's a brilliant question, right? Because people wonder, if I'm taking PrEP, does that mean I'm HIV positive? So why do I need to take the same medication that HIV people are taking positive? So if I'm going to have to take it every day? And the answer to that is, the good thing about PrEP is that it's for people who are HIV negative, and you can actually stop taking it at any time when you do feel like you're no longer at risk of contracting HIV, which unfortunately for South Africa, with the high numbers that we have, it's very difficult to know and to say that now I'm at reduced risk, because you don't know what people are doing out there. So it's important to take it every single day as prescribed so that you are protected, and importantly, 7 days before at least you engage in sexual activity, and 7 days after that. But it needs to be taken every day if you're continuously engaging in sexual activity. Yeah. And if you stop, then you can have a conversation with your doctor about it.
And I don't think I need to emphasize this with you, but for the benefit of everyone in the conversation, it doesn't prevent other STIs. And also, I suppose you'll want to emphasize that it is only a part of the arsenal against HIV.
100%. So it only prevents HIV. all the other sexually transmitted infections, we still need to use condoms. We still need to go for screening and testing. And, if people want to learn more and chat to us more, we do have a WhatsApp chatbot, and we have a website that's called www.foreverwena.co.za. And, there's lots of information readily available about your sexual health on that platform.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for those insights. That's Dr. Letugwena Maletswalo, who is a medical doctor and a public health advocate, bringing us to 8 a.m. here on SAFM. Time now for a news update with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, World Food Day highlights food insecurity in South Africa, and 2 suspected extortionists killed in a shootout with police. Good morning. 20% of children up to the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition and stunting in South Africa. That's according to non-profit organization SA Harvest, as South Africa joins the international community in observing World Food Day. This year's theme is Right to Foods for a Better Life and a Better Future. SA Harvest CEO and founder Alan Broder says government needs to take a systematic approach to solving the problem.
The day actually reminds us that there is a right to the right food. And this is particularly relevant in our country because in our country we have the Constitution stipulate, and it's enshrined in our Constitution in Section 27 that every South African is entitled to enough food, has the right to enough food, and Section 28 says every child has the right to enough nutrition. The day is saying is that we have the right, which is constitutional, to the right food. So the second right is to the correct, nutritious food. And it's exactly what we need in South Africa.
2 suspected extortionists have been killed and another seriously wounded in a shootout with police on the N1 near Sanctuary City in Cape Town. Police spokesperson Malcolm Puyer says officers followed up on information about the 3 suspects extorting businesses. He says during a high-speed chase, the suspects fired at police who retaliated.
3 firearms were seized from the vehicle after the shootout. Preliminary investigation indicated the vehicle the suspects were traveling in was hijacked in Thornton a few days ago. Investigations are underway to determine the identities of the deceased individuals and the one that was wounded. Serious and violent crime investigations of the Provincial Organised Crime Unit are probing attempted murder, possession of unlicensed firearm, as well as possession of hijacked vehicle charges. Meanwhile, IPID will investigate the inquest pertaining to the death.
Preparations are underway for the funeral of former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni in Limpopo on Saturday. President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded Mboweni a special official funeral Category 2. Ramaphosa has also directed the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations in the country from this morning until Saturday evening. Mboweni died on Saturday following a short illness at the age of 65. Meanwhile, South African Revenue Service Commissioner Edward Kieswetter has paid tribute to Mboweni, who he has described as a fiercely independent individual.
Whether it was as a young Minister of Labour who spearheaded a remarkable transformation of our labour legislation coming from our very divided past to restore equity into the workplace. Already then, which was the first time I met him as a young Minister of Labour, I was a young power plant manager for Eskom, and he came and he shared the thinking behind the new legislation. In his case, he used the labour law to further advance his fight for justice and for democracy, improving the material conditions of people.
The Automobile Association says the anticipated fuel price hikes will come at a time when most consumers and motorists are still struggling financially. The 5-month trend of fuel decreases is set to end next month. This is because of higher international product prices and a steady softening of the rand against the US dollar. The AA in a statement says 95-octane petrol is expected to increase by around 14 cents a litre, with 93 increasing by around 3 cents. Diesel is expected to go up by around 14 cents and illuminating paraffin by around 7 cents a litre. There's been a record turnout in Georgia on the first day of early voting for next month's U.S. presidential election. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have both campaigned intensely in Georgia, regarded as a key swing state. The BBC's Nada Taufik has the details.
Within hours of polls opening, this key swing state had already broken the record for the first day of early voting. By 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Georgia's number 2 election official, Gabriel Sterling, said 252,000 people across the state had cast early ballots, far surpassing the day-long tally of 136,000 in 2020. He called it a spectacular turnout. It's a further sign that early voting is becoming increasingly popular in the United States. It also means the candidates are running out of time to make their pitch to voters.
Recapping the top story, 20% of children up to the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition and stunting in South Africa. That's according to non-profit organisation SA Harvest, as South Africa joins the international community in observing World Food Day. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Even if you drive an older car, you still need insurance. Outsurance Essential is designed and priced for older cars with the cover you need. After an accident, claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. And what's more, Outsurance now also offers motor warranty that covers you for mechanical and electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Been busy on the run out of Pretoria North areas this morning, particularly for motorists that use Vanderbilt Pass. The lights are down on Steve Biko Road, just south of the pass, and that's what's causing that big delay of traffic. If you're on Lavender, coming into the pass here, it's quite heavy. Those splitting down through the port on towards Vanderbilt Junction is pretty heavily backed up there as well. WFNCom on Sophie de Brain in Pretoria CBD, a collision still causing backlogs on both of those routes as well. It's been there all morning, that crash scene. Mike 1 from Boyce's up to Corlett Drive is a heavy queue this morning. On your way slowly through to Santon. Top story is the truck fire that happened earlier today before 6 a.m. on Durban's N2 north of Umgena Road. Recovery of that scene still underway. Traffic restrictions on the N2 as you off-ramp to Umgena Road. It's keeping traffic solid all the way back towards the cement factory. The M4 from Umbilo Kongila up into the CBD. That's heavy as an alternative route, and plenty of traffic diverting up Bel Air Road and then again up the Brickfield Road as you make your way through towards sort of Alpine and Umgeni. So it's very heavily backed on those alternative routes as well as the N2. And Cape Town's a busy Wednesday, busy midweek Wednesday. You can see that routes like the R300 slow still, Kales River, Brackenfell area. The N7 jamming both ways north from Goodwood, south from Plattercliff Road. Plenty of traffic still going slow towards the Bosmansdam exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it's soccer. Themba Zwane will be out for months, which is a major blow for Bafana Bafana's AFCON hopes. And in cricket, the Proteas women have stormed into the ICC Women's T20 World Cup semi-finals. All this and more at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Wednesday, the 16th of October 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Hey, listen, I don't want to waste any time, right? It's that time where we open up. Let's crank up the ideas refinery. Put yours on the table. I put mine on the table. Let's stress test them and see if we can convince one another and see if we can find common ground, sufficient consensus. Already a number of conversations that we've been having over the last 2 hours or so. We did talk about infrastructure development in the country, particularly packaging projects with Dean McPherson, the minister. They're weighing in about an intervention that they'll be seeking to introduce to try and ensure that public entities are able to package projects such that they are bankable and ready, what they call shovel ready to hit the ground running. You can reflect on that if you want, but also the two-port retirement system. The SARS commissioner spoke to me a bit earlier on and told me that by now the withdrawals have come up to about 24 billion rand. And he was saying actually the number keeps climbing and in fact very soon it will actually be even higher. We did talk about the issue of food poisoning. Food that ends up making particularly children sick and in some instances dying. A number of these incidents that we've been reporting on that have occurred in various schools, particularly in areas of townships and informal settlements. A lot of attention on that at the moment with the Gauteng Education Department as well as the National Consumer Commission also weighing in on that. But there are of course other stories that you may want to reflect on. The suspects whose names and identities were released by the police in relation to the Thulasizwe massacre. It's time for you and I now to play our part. We lament and we scream and shout about government needing to curb the high crime rate in South Africa, violent crime. Sometimes it's up to us to play our part. That's just some of the sampling of the issues that you may want to touch on. I'll be taking your calls. The number to dial 086 000 2032, and I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Outsurance definitely understands the nature of our business. Being properly insured is extremely important to the success of our business.
They come to the party very quickly, resolve things.
Actions speak much louder than words. Outsurance have shown us nothing but action.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Mzansi, don't let the Lotto jackpot estimated at 77 million rand pass you by this Wednesday. That's right. Play Lotto for an estimated 77 million rand jackpot today and you could be celebrating the millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery. The Rockets say before the sun sets in Mpumalanga, they will march out of the battlefield with a VIP access to the quarterfinals. However, the Chili Boys are not shaken. They want joy for the Eastern Cape citizens. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup Round of 16. Fagukesi! Catch TS Galaxy FC versus Chipa United FC this Sunday, 20 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Send Thulasizwe your voice notes on 061 410 4107.
All right, let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought contend. Let's take some of your calls now. Let's speak to Gift Ngondi, who's calling from the Eastern Cape. Gift, good morning to you, ANC spokesperson in the province. You want to talk about the progress that is being made in the Thulasizwe mass murder matter.
Good morning to your viewers. Look, I think the ANC in the province, we must say that we are elated with the crime efforts by the police in the province. In particular, in most dangerous areas, you'll recall that areas like Yomtata, Yongeleni, Yokumbu, Yosolo, Yokobokobo, Yotabeja, Island, Tuchwa, Ngamakhe, Willowville. There's been many of the crime spots in the province, and the covert operations, the intelligence-led operations by the police, and those weekly high-density operations have resulted in many arrests of many criminals, especially dangerous and hardened criminals around the province. And also, we must also say that we are elated that 4 of the suspects, whom their identities were released last night, in fact, yesterday, 3 of them have been caught in Port Shepstone last night. So we must say that we welcome this because it reaffirms the role that has been played by the police. Also reaffirms the work that has been done by the Minister of Police when we made calls for him to make interventions in the province. And I think the allied crime fighting machinery in the form of the technical response team, your special investigators, your detectives, your Hawks, the National Intervention Unit, have their fruit in making sure that there have been arrests, especially these dangerous and hardened criminals in the province.
All right, Gift, just confirm for me. I had missed that update. You are confirming, and maybe if you can, even allude to the source from which you get this latest information about the arrests in the Thulasizwe matter. So there were these, as you say, these identities that were released by the police. You are saying some of the suspects have been arrested?
Yeah, 3 of them have been arrested last night in Port Shepstone. So this is just a decisive action by the police, and also I think it's also a demonstration of the absolute intolerance of crime.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. That's Gift Ngondi out in the Eastern Cape talking about progress being made in the issue of fighting crime. I appreciate what he's saying, but I would be measured and not want to use words like elated. There's still some ground to cover. I would say progress is welcomed, but I wouldn't go as far as to say elated yet, because we need this to be sustainable. The progress needs to be sustainable and not happen when we have incidents such as these and then wane after a period of time. But certainly the progress is welcomed. Let's speak to Brabi out in Khayelitsha. Brabi, good morning. You want to talk to me about extortionists that have been killed in Cape Town?
Absolutely. A very good morning, my brother. Look, one thing that makes me very surprised is these people, can't they see government has declared war against them? And they don't win. If you do your calculations going back to the number of people demanding money to businesses and from people, how many that have been killed so far? So can't they stop this? And in fact, if you can check, these are young men, and I can tell you, even though I didn't hear the ages, so to speak. So is there any way that they can stop this nonsense? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because they don't win. They don't win. Absolutely, they don't win. 2 have been gunned down and 1 is wounded.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense to me.
I hear you, Brabi. Thank you for that input, Brabi, out in Khayelitsha, talking about issues of extortion and saying that government has declared war and the extortionists are not going to win that war. Let's speak to Balisa out in the Free State. Balisa, good morning. You want to talk to me about the 2-port retirement system. Are you making the ports to be done?
Hi, the pots are not being done.
The pots are not being done.
Like it's so stressful. Like I applied on the 4th of September, and then I got a tax directive on the 8th. Then on the 8th of October. Then on the 11th of October, they said they sent it back to GPF. So everything is correct. So I was a bit confused when the SARS commissioner was saying that sometimes there's a delay because information is incorrect. But in my case and in many other people's cases, that's not the case. It's just that how can people be... There are some that applied on the 13th, 14th, even up to the 19th of September, and they've been paid. But some of us who applied from the 2nd to the 6th, we haven't been paid.
Sure.
So I don't understand. And when I called to find out like what is happening, they're saying that there's no payment date. So without a payment date, the money can't come through. So then we'll ask like, okay, what's the process? What must happen now? They will say, we're not sure. We just have to wait, and 60 days hasn't passed.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, and they said it's for emergency funds, but now, it's not make sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if it's emergency access to those savings, if it's going to take so long for you to be able to realize what you're trying to do, it doesn't serve the purpose of it being emergency. So I wonder then, Palesa, if it's not a delay with GPF as opposed to SARS, if you're saying that you received the tax directive from SARS.
The thing is, no one is honest with us, and there's no communication whatsoever. So we would never really know the truth. So we were just sitting here, and I'm on day 42 or 43.
Sure. That is unacceptable.
And when I call and ask, they say, no, for sure, before 60 days. So I've got 2 more weeks to see what will happen. But I mean, it's very, very upsetting. And the people that applied on the 19th of September, they're paid today.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, if they can just communicate with us, I think we'll be fine.
All right, Palesa, let's leave it there. Thank you for sharing your experience there. It does seem that we may need to knock on other doors to try and understand delays in the access to these emergency savings that people are trying to access through the two-pot retirement system. Let's take a call from Sia in Durban. Sia, good morning. You want to talk to me about food poisoning?
Yes, morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, I wanted just to touch on that which you had talked about earlier in the morning. Now, Thulasizwe, we will be going around this mountain and never really make progress because there are simple things that just demand logic. Okay, just logic, basic logic. One, if our borders are open, and even the officials don't know who's coming through there. Right there, just from the source, we go to the source. Where is our root problem? Use logic. Our biggest problem is this government. There is no political will. From the administration number, from the first administration to the sixth administration. I'll make an example. With the death of the children, 5 children in Naledi, did you hear a word from the president? Can I ask you that question?
Yeah, no,
Did we hear?
Yeah.
Nothing. Now, right there, the writing is very clear on the wall. Who is behind all this nonsense in our country? The ANC government is the biggest culprit. I'm saying this, I'm singling them out because here there was a move to go and do an audit on all the foreign national owned sponsor shops here in KZN. And you know who opposed that? The ANC councillors and DA. So you know then who are the beneficiaries of this chaos in our country, of crime. So let's call what it is, call it out, and we demand the media to call out these politicians. Let's not give them room because this is our country. We don't have any other country. Everyone else who comes here, they have a place where they can run to.
Right.
If things go south here in South Africa,
right,
where do we run to? You and I.
All right, Sia, let's leave it there. I hear you. I got your point there that the stakes are really high and the time to not really speak directly on issues is long past. That is Sia there weighing in on issues to do with food poisoning, but linking it to the broader ecosystem that includes uncontrolled and unlawful migration. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll be talking about the issue of eyesight. In fact, let me go straight to that conversation. Cataracts are the leading cause of preventable blindness worldwide. As the end of Eye Care Awareness Month draws near, South Africans are urged to take preventative measures to protect their eyesight. Around 250,000 South Africans are blind, we are told, due to untreated cataracts, a condition that is both preventable and treatable. Let's take the conversation forward. I'm joined by Dr. Jenny Laithwaite, who is a member of the Right to Sight Trust. Good morning to you, Doc. I've got to thank you for your time. Just put into perspective the issue of cataracts and their contribution to loss of eyesight and blindness as it manifests in South Africa.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. It's lovely to speak to you today. Cataracts are one of those things that can be so easily treated, and yet there's so many people who kind of have this assumption that, oh, well, you know, when one gets old, you lose your sight. And so they think that there's not anything that can be done for them, when actually a fairly straightforward operation can actually treat their cataracts. And here in South Africa, most of our government provincial hospitals are able to do cataract surgery, but during Eye Care Awareness Month, we particularly as ophthalmologists focus on doing cataract surgery for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it, or where the waiting lists in the hospitals are long, to try and reduce that backlog. So the Right to Sight Trust helps to fund the materials and resources that go into doing that surgery, so that we can give people the wonderful gift of being able to have a quality of life restored to them by having their vision improved again.
What causes cataracts?
So all of us, if we live long enough, will develop cataracts. They're mainly caused by oxidative damage to the lens structures within our eyes that converts them over time from being perfectly transparent when we are young to becoming more and more cloudy. So the major things that can contribute to that is our diet. If we don't have enough antioxidants, things like green leafy vegetables in our diet. If we smoke, then that accelerates the development of cataracts, and sun exposure in our lifetimes can also accelerate the development of cataracts.
And I guess the answer to my next question commends itself from what you just said. Preventable, how do we prevent cataracts?
So I don't think it's so much that we can prevent cataracts as that we would focus on preventing the blindness that develops from cataracts. And no one should be blind due to a cataract. The moment someone is losing vision, they should have their eyes assessed by an eye care professional like an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, because losing your vision is not always something that can't be treated. It often can be treated. And I think that's the main message that we'd really love people to know, that you do not need to be blind from cataracts. We would love you to see again and be functional again.
And in terms of access to, the surgery that is required, yes. What's that looking like, particularly in the public sector, in rural areas and areas where access to healthcare is not necessarily so easy?
So obviously it's a very difficult issue, especially after COVID. Even the major centres had huge backlogs of cataract surgery because it hadn't been a priority during that time. A lot of the main centres have reduced that backlog again. But as you say, especially in the rural areas, access to an eye clinic or an ophthalmologist is often reduced. There are a lot of projects that are run by various not-for-profit organisations, including Right for Sight, that reach out to patients in those areas. The ophthalmologists in South Africa cooperate with Right to Sight in trying to assist those patients. Even in major centres, we still have backlogs of patients desperately needing this surgery, and obviously that impacts the rural areas far more.
And lastly, Doc, how will I know that the development of cataracts is beginning to affect my eyesight, even before I reach a medical practitioner and get checked properly? What are the telltale signs that there may be an issue to attend to?
So I think the things that people usually complain of is that they feel as if they're looking through a little bit of a dirty window in their vision. They feel as if they keep on cleaning their glasses because they feel as if things aren't clear. You would especially notice, for example, if you're driving at night or walking around at night, you might see a lot of glare and reflections from lights that you're seeing there. And patients like that should really have their eyes checked because we really can assist them. We don't want them to reach the stage of sometimes the gogos in the rural areas with that dense grey cataract inside their eyes that really has reached a stage of making them blind. We would like to treat them long before they reach that stage.
All right, I've got to thank you for this conversation, an important one. That's Dr. Jenny Laithwaite, who is a member of the Right to Sight Trust, talking to us about blindness and just giving us, the basics of what to look out for in as far as blindness that is preventable, that is as a result of cataracts.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, former National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is expected to be back in the High Court in Pretoria today. She's facing 12 charges of corruption and one of money laundering. Former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's personal assistant is expected to appear in the High Court in Bloemfontein for pre-trial hearing this morning. Muruwadi Chulota is among 18 accused in the 255 million rand asbestos roofing project case dating back to 2014. And 20% of children up to the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition and stunting in South Africa. That's according to non-profit organization SA Harvest, as South Africa joins the international community in observing World Food Day. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg easing up pretty nicely this morning. Looks like there might be some roadworks back on the R21, though. These R21 roadworks are very changeable. Looks like a queue between Pomona and the Benoni off-ramp going north. And then you've got the backlog coming south on the R21 towards the airport, approaching the Olifantsfontein exit as well. Durban's M2 remains a problem this morning with a truck fire up at the Umgeta Road off-ramp. Been there since 6 a.m. this morning. Traffic remains heavy from the cement factory area. That's a really big backlog of traffic. The alternative M4 below Congela into CBD is quite busy, and then routes like Bel Air and Felix Clemeni just taking noticeably more traffic. Anything that acts as an alternative going north this morning is absolutely full. Sort of routes that run parallel towards the N2 are full with motorists just trying to beat the N2, and it's probably still worth doing that. Cape Town today, just rewinding to yesterday, Cape Town on the major routes into the city centre stayed busy until well after 10 o'clock, and it looks like that sort of traffic pattern today. It is really busy. N1 from Plattercliff, N2 from Langa, M5 at Kenilworth, M3 at sort of Constantia, bottom of Wynberg Hill area. There's still a lot of traffic to process on routes through to Cape Town. Even Marine Drive stays heavily backed up at this hour from Bayside through to Racecourse Road at Milnerton. Kuberg Road will be a better option. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Yeah, Zai, this is not good news out of the Bafana camp, given the fact that we couldn't get it over the line when we had the opportunity in Congo-Brazzaville.
Yeah, Thulas, it seems Themba Zwane has been served an Achilles heel of a problem. It's not a good one. Yeah. So let's hope that, he'll make a speedy recovery. He'll be able to bounce back. He is our talisman, Themba Mshishi Zwane, out of action for months, potentially 6 months after tearing his Achilles tendon. Speaking after Bafana's hard-fought 1-1 draw against Congo in Brazzaville last night, Coach Hugo Bruges revealed that Zwane's injury also makes things difficult for them as they fail to control the game. Now let's hear from Coach Hugo Bruges.
It was not a good thing for us that Themba has to go out with an injury. It's a big injury, so it's Achilles. I'm afraid he will be out for months. So again, when you lose such an important player, it's difficult, certainly in a game where you are dominated, because Themba is someone who can keep the ball, who can give the last pass. Yes, So he was not there, and maybe that was also a reason why we didn't play so well today.
In the meantime, the Lesotho national team head coach Leslie Notse has continued to show a brave face despite seeing his team go down 2-0 at home to Gabon in their Africa Cup of Nations qualification match played at Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban yesterday. Lesotho fared much better in this game than last week's encounter, where they came with an ultra-defensive approach and allowed Gabon to dominate, but they still fell short. Notse says this was a do-or-die match for them.
Today was a very critical or crucial match for us, and we had to take the game to our opponents, and we have brought in fresh legs into the team with the belief that we have to take the game to Gabon.
Now, Nigeria's soccer players, they arrived in Abuja last night after boycotting their Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in Libya, where they were stranded overnight at Al Barak Airport in what the team described as mind games. Through authorities in Libya denied it was sabotage, the Confederation of African Football, which organizes the competition, says it will investigate the matter. The Super Eagles were scheduled to play the Group D game yesterday. Nigeria won 1-0 when the team played on Friday, when similar accusations of sabotage from the Libya team came after they were delayed at a Nigerian airport. Now, the Libyan Football Federation says it regretted the flight diversion, adding it's essential to note that such incidents can occur due to routine air traffic control protocols, security checks, or logistical challenges that affect international air travel. They posted the message on X. Elsewhere, Thomas Tuchel has signed a deal to become the new England manager. The 51-year-old German ends the wait for a permanent new head coach following Gareth Southgate's resignation. Tuchel has been out of work since leaving Bayern Munich at the end of last season. And finally, the Proteas women have stormed into the ICC Women's T20 World Cup semi-finals, overcoming nerves in an intense practice session to secure their place after anxiously waiting the outcome of England and the West Indies clash. The Proteas were confirmed as the second group in their team, and this will be setting up a thrilling showdown against the world champions Australia. The semi-final will be a rematch of last year's final, where the Australians narrowly claimed victory. This time, the Proteas determined to go all out. That's how we wrap it up on the morning brief. We'll have more sport on SAFM around 12:30 with John Henniker. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's get another update now. Let's get another update from Dauleng Lechela. Good morning to you once again, Dauleng. I see that more South Africans are turning to the used car market. What insights are we gleaning in terms of the reasons behind and what the trend is?
So, South Africa's car market facing some tough times, according to TransUnion's Vehicle Pricing Index for the second quarter of 2024. Used vehicle prices are up 4.4%, and we're seeing many consumers turning to the used car market, where prices have only risen 0.6%. The shift is reflected in the latest economic prints as well, which show a 6% drop in new vehicle sales in the first 9 months of the year and a 6.1% decline in total vehicles financed. These economic pressures evident in the average loan for financed vehicles, which has increased to 400,000 rand. This marks a significant jump from the 391,000 rand recorded in the previous quarter. We've also seen the number of new vehicle finance accounts decline to its lowest point since 2020. But it's not all bad. Some glimmers of hope coming through following the recent interest rate cuts, which may provide a much-needed boost. According to experts, though, the car industry is adapting to affordability concerns, with the used car market likely to benefit the most. Last year, the pre-owned car market recorded 7.8% growth, with combined sales reaching 12.9 billion rand, far outpacing the 0.5% increase we saw in new car vehicles over the same period.
Dauleng, in company news, you're telling us about Quantum Foods, who are into animal feeds, eggs, and proteins like that, poultry and the likes. You're saying they're buoyant about a return to profitability. Why is that?
That's right. So South Africa's largest egg producer there, Quantum Foods, is expecting a financial turnaround. This despite struggles with avian flu outbreaks and a recent explosion at one of its mills. The company is optimistic about its future, and key factors driving this growth include improved operational efficiencies, reduced feed costs, and higher egg prices. Additionally, Quantum Foods operations in Uganda and Mozambique have shown improved performance, strengthening the company's financial prospects. But the company's Zambian operations have been impacted by high raw material costs, frequent power outages, and a weakening local currency. After reporting a 35 million rand loss in the previous reporting period, the owner of New Laid Eggs now expects to turn a profit. There are concerns, though. In a News 24 article, Anthony Clark, an analyst from Small Talk Daily Research, warns that further volatility in egg pricing could negatively impact the company. Governance issues and reputation concerns also surround Quantum Foods. The company faces ongoing boardroom battles between shareholder groups limiting liquidity and potentially overpricing shares. And a recent carte blanche expose revealed unsanitary conditions at one of Quantum Foods' factories, damaging its reputation as well. Now, despite these challenges, Quantum Foods' share price has more than tripled in value this year, but Clark cautions that the share price may be fundamentally overpriced, driven by the corporate activity and share buying among opposing shareholder camps.
Here's one that I think you will like. Quantum Foods is putting all their eggs into the profitability basket.
Choosy, but I love it.
Last one then, and Dowling, just ahead of the start of trade at the JSE, just give us a sense of how, what kind of a day we are looking at here at home, but also around the world.
The local markets likely to start the day on a mixed note, with stocks taking a bit of a breather following a rally that fueled markets at the top of the week. In terms of local news flow, we will be getting retail sales figures as well as updates from quota and primary health properties. Looking at the currency markets now, emerging market currencies taking a knock this week following the disappointment around China's stimulus package. The rand caught up in that mix, trending lower. It's sitting at 17.63 to the greenback. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are mixed there, with traders eyeing more company results as earnings season picks up. Over in Asia, markets on track to end the day mixed, with traders digesting some of the earnings coming through. We are also seeing investors hitting pause and opting to take a breather when it comes to those equity markets.
All right, thank you for that. Have yourself a great day there. That's Ntawuleng Lechela. She's been watching all news from the economic front, as well as business and the markets from here at home and around the world here on The Morning Brief.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Bayede!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim-free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Bayern München are not just about singing their club anthem, Star of the South. They want to maintain their unbeaten run while their visitors VfB Stuttgart plan to live up to their slogan, fearless and loyal. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting clash between Bayern München and VfB Stuttgart this Saturday, 19 October at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's focus on the beautiful game now. When we lined up this conversation, the hope was that by now we would be saying Bafana Bafana have qualified for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, and we were going to be having a conversation about how do they then carry that momentum forward and ensure that they perform well. But as you've been hearing from Zaikan throughout this morning, they played to a draw, which means that we're not popping the champagne just yet. So Bafana Bafana is one match closer to qualifying for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The national team played a draw with Congo Brazzaville on Tuesday night. While the draw delayed Bafana's qualification for AFCON, the team is 4 points ahead of Congo and needs just one win to qualify. That is if I do my maths correctly. But someone who knows all about it is Nkululeko Nkewu, who is a co-founder of Idiski TV. Good morning to you, Nkululeko, and thank you for your time this morning. So what are the implications of a draw in Congo Brazzaville against a team that we thrashed so comprehensively just a few days ago?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to your listeners as well. Thank you very much for inviting me. Well, I suppose it's celebrations delayed for now. I don't think in the greater scheme of things, I don't think it's the worst thing that could have happened. Yes, of course, we can scrutinize the performance. That's my job. Basically, we talk about performances every day when we watch these matches. But ultimately, Bafana Bafana looks like they will qualify for the African Cup of Nations. A draw means that maybe Congo still have a chance, but if they draw themselves, then they are out with the two matches that are left. Bafana Bafana just needs one win, and we will qualify for the African Cup of Nations. I don't think it's a train smash. What I think is interesting, though, is the idea that the fact that we beat them 5-0 and then we went to Congo and then they suddenly look like a different team, not necessarily different personnel on the field of play, but they just looked like a different team, even though they played the majority of the same players. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know, sometimes with these African federations, players don't get paid or the flights are delayed. Maybe by the time that they played us, last week, and we beat them 5-0. There were so many issues behind the scenes, and perhaps that played a factor into why they lost 5-0. Because yesterday they could have won. There was a goal that they scored that was disallowed. In the fact that it was 1-1, it could have been 2-1, and we could have lost that game. So fortunately for us as South Africa, we walked away from Congo Brazzaville with a point instead of a loss.
There was much that was being said ahead of the game about the pitch, the artificial pitch on which they were going to be playing. To what extent does it factor, particularly looking at the style of play of a team like South Africa, Bafana Bafana?
Yeah, that's a good question, Thulasizwe. The ball bounces. It seems subtle. When you're watching it, you may not notice it on TV, but for a team that prefers playing the ball on the ground, which is perhaps carpet or possession-based football, you want the ball to, as by the time that you pass it to your teammate, there must not be any uncertainty whether or not the ball will reach the teammate. It wasn't too bad from the looks of it. However, there is a factor when you compare artificial to, of course, a normal grass or a normal pitch. So if you want to play your normal game, it does kind of affect it, because you might now have to change your strategy because of the artificialness of the pitch, because the ball responds differently. And for 95% of the time, many of those players don't play in an artificial field. Some of the players play in Europe for Congo. With the Bafana players in South Africa in the Premier Soccer League, we don't use artificial pitches. They don't get approved for Premier Soccer League matches, professional football matches. So it is something that they're not familiar with. So it does play a role. Although, of course, other people will say that it affected both teams. Therefore, you have to adjust and so on and so forth. However, you cannot really take that away, that they were playing in an artificial field. Most of those players would not have played a professional football match in an artificial pitch, or they've just played once or twice in the last 10 years in an artificial pitch, because it usually doesn't get approval. But with the state of African football and the federations and the countries socially, what is happening is it is affecting football as well. So what has happened in the last 2 or 3 years, CAF has started disapproving a lot of the stadiums in Africa, and as a result, most African nations with these qualifiers and the World Cup qualifiers, they're playing outside their countries in neutral venues, or the compromise is that they must find an artificial pitch that is conducive to play. And that's why you're seeing the rise of these matches. I watched the Sudan versus Ghana as well at 3 p.m. yesterday. That was also played on an artificial pitch, and the ball was bouncing a lot there. It was more severe. It is because of what is happening socially with African countries is affecting these professional teams now. And they have to now play at neutral venues. So that's the context of why we play on an artificial pitch.
What did last night's game reveal, Nkululeko, about the depth in the various positions, in defensive positions and the midfield in particular, with Bafana Bafana and some of the players that were just not available yesterday, or the injury to Thembazwane?
Yeah, the injury taught us something about whether or not we have a second number 10. So an attacking midfielder is a number 10 in football, is usually the most creative person on the field for either team. For Bafana Bafana, our most creative player is usually Thembazwane. That's his task as a number 10, or anyone else who is a number 10. Now, there's a young man by the name of Patrick Maswanganyi at Orlando Pirates. He's a superstar at Orlando Pirates, a superstar in local football. But what we didn't know, what has not been answered with him, is whether or not he'll be able to make the transition to international football. We saw him in patches yesterday, maybe a 4 out of 10 performance, or maybe 5 out of 10 performance. But context is that he hasn't really been playing international football. These are his first few matches in international football. Maybe he'll grow into it. So we don't know yet whether or not we have a replacement for Thembazwane. We shouldn't even be looking at it from the perspective, but injuries do happen. And when Thembazwane is injured, do we have someone who's capable at playing his role? I think on ability, yes, Maswanganyi can perhaps do that, through passes to the striker, open up opportunities for Bafana Bafana when things are not happening. But it didn't happen yesterday. I don't think that it won't happen in future. What we learned yesterday doesn't tell us a lot about what will happen in future, because you play your first and the second game, and then maybe on your third game, you will start to see the real you. So we're looking forward to seeing Maswanganyi there playing and of course helping Thembazwane whenever maybe Thembazwane is not in form. So we kind of learned that was very important yesterday in terms of that cover for Thembazwane. If it's not working out for Maswanganyi, maybe after 10 matches, maybe we'll have to look at someone else.
All right, I get you. Thank you for that, Nkululeko Nkewu, who is co-founder of iDiski TV. We'll be sure to invite you again when we are now actually celebrating and saying Bafana Bafana have done it, and we have qualified for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, Durban's N2, it's been our top story this morning for good reason. It is very heavily backed up. It's the earlier truck fire incident up at Mgeni Road. There are restrictions as you try to get off the highway to access Mgeni Road. The traffic, that's on top of the roadworks, of course. Traffic remains very heavy from the M7. The M4 Southern Freeway looks a good option into Durban, then out of Durban and straight up towards the Schlanga area and a cut back to the N2 gateway for the airport if you want to just bypass the N2. M7 looks like lights are down at St. John's Avenue Bridge in Pinetown. So still fairly heavily congested in that central Pinetown area today. Joburg crash to the Mike 1 South before Woodmead Drive. Traffic coming down from Allendale Road through Buccleuch quite heavy. Roadworks back on the R21 North today at the Benoni exit. So delays as you leave the airport. There's roadworks on your way to the airport as well at Clayville, causing some problems. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Yesterday it was quite amazing to see Cape Town traffic backed up probably to about sort of 20 past 10 on your major routes going in. And it looks like we're going to get a repeat of that today. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, midweek days are really sort of high back to the office for the hybrid working team. So there's just a lot of traffic heading into the city. The N1 backed up from Plattekloof, the N2 from Robert Sobukwe, that's a queue just after the airport. The M3 from the sort of Wynberg Hill area through to UCT, still really busy. Lots of congestion on Four Tracker Road through the Maitland area and Marine Drive. Here's something that's unusual for this time, just gives you an idea of how much around Marine Drive, queuing Dolphin Beach down to Racecourse Road, more queues at Loxton Road, and then more queues through Parton Island trying to squeeze into that busy N1. It's a busy morning into Cape Town Central. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The 2024 Health Excellence Awards, hosted by Cliniques Health Group and the South African Clinician Scientist Society, is calling for nominations. This is your chance to recognize exceptional doctors, specialists, and medical professionals who are making an impact. The celebration of the 4th Annual Health Excellence Awards will take place on 16 November 2024 at Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg. Visit www.healthexcellenceawards.co.za to enter your nomination before 20 October 2024.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
And so close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out of Bumo. They've done it again! Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's hear from you. Let's take some of the voice notes that you've been sending us throughout the morning based on the conversations we've been having. Let's hear one that talks about the pre-exposure prophylaxis that we were discussing a bit earlier on.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I was hoping that the doctor will also talk about PrEP post-exposure, because doctors also prescribe medicine differently. I've taken PrEP post-exposure, where I recalculated my decisions, and I went to the doctor and I told him that I've just been exposed. So the doctor confirms negativity first of your status, and then he will prescribe for 30 days. And then after 30 days of taking the meds, he will test you. And he can also prescribe again for another 30 days and then test you again. And if everything is fine, you can therefore continue with your life as normal. You don't have to continue taking PrEP. It was just for that time. So yeah, people must just engage their healthcare providers to get assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely important. I think I did hear Dr. Letswalo talking about if you can help it, 7 days before the possible sexual encounter and possible exposure, and 7 days after. I think that's what she was talking about there. But also important to emphasize, it doesn't replace all the other measures that we need to be taking to protect ourselves. The issue of spaza shops and food poisoning has really dominated the conversation on the WhatsApp voice note. So let's take a few that have to do with that issue now.
Good morning to us and SAFM listeners. The problem about these tuck shops, it's going nowhere to us. The residents of South Africa must fight for themselves. If you hear this foreign nation, when they speak about our law enforcement, they will tell you it's the most corrupt law enforcement. And they will tell you we're going nowhere because they eat at the palm of our hands. Thank you. It's Lucy.
Morning, Tulas. It's Chris in Camberton. You cannot let municipalities off the hook on the issue of food poisoning. They are the ones who are supposed to be licensing businesses. They are the ones with the environmental health responsibility at the local level. What are they doing? Please, let's get the answers. And really, municipalities could be sleeping on the job here.
All right, let's continue with that theme. Let's bring in Fanny, who is in the Val. And Fanny, you also want to talk about the issue of food poisoning. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Thulasizwe. It's Fanny from the Val. Yes, actually, I got a bad experience about this food poisoning. I was heading to the meeting at Long Meadow from the Val. It happened that I will pass at Alberton shopping complex, that is a new market. Then I just I was actually want to buy something to eat quickly before the meeting. And then I'll enter into this big chain store that is Pick and Pay. And then I just bought it was a processed food. It was chicken and pork. And I just bought a bottle of water. After consuming that food, but while I was consuming this food, I could taste these two meat are not tasting the same, but I was so ignorant, I continued eating that. Then after eating that, I took my car and I drove along N3, approaching Jamestown. I was sweating and vomiting while I was driving. I had to park off the vehicle next to the road and vomited. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I immediately Googled their numbers and called them and tell them about this experience. They said, no, sorry, we'll remove those food in the Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your terrible experience there, Fanny. I'm completely out of time. That's Fanny in the Val there, talking about an experience that he had with the issue of food poisoning. So clearly, from the conversations we've been having, a lot of follow-through is needed in terms of enforcement, bylaws, as well as other issues to do with food standards and keeping toxins out of the food value chain. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. The talking point is up next here on SAFM. Time now for the news, but before that, Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, wanted suspects linked to Lusikisiki mass shooting arrested, and World Food Day highlights food insecurity in South Africa. Good morning. 3 of the 4 wanted suspects have been arrested in Port Shepstone on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast in connection with the killing of 18 people in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape last month. One other suspect abandoned his bail application in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court yesterday. KwaZulu-Natal Police spokesperson Robert Nechihunda says police received a tip-off from community members. He says they recognize the suspects from the photographs police have been circulating.
Police received a tip-off from a community member that the wanted suspects were hiding at a rented accommodation at Mkolombe informal settlement in Port Shepstone. A swift operation was put in motion and the 3 suspects aged 22, 24 and 31 years old were arrested. The operation is ongoing with police heading to Kokstad in search of a firearm which the suspect allegedly used in the commission of the crime.
Former National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is expected to be back in the